Christopher.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Thank you for being here.
Short meeting tonight.
Yeah.
30 minutes.
We're meeting early tonight, 6 o'clock. Welcome. This is the special meeting of the Village of Lake Bluff Architectural Board of Review. So it's March 5th. Roll call, please. Mike?
Member Cottrell.
Present.
Member Dahlman.
Here.
Member Deegan.
Here.
Member Wicks.
Here.
Member Kerouac.
Here.
And Chair Hunter.
Here.
And Member Stradiff is absent.
Okay, the consideration of the February 6th minutes. Any comments, corrections?
I move to approve as submitted.
A second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Is that a universal aye?
Aye.
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 Okay, aye. All right, the minutes are accepted. All right. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on something tonight that is not on the agenda? Okay, then we'll move on. So right now, we're going to jump into the first item, which is the consideration of a fire sprinkler exemption request at 960, 970 North Shore Drive. Who's going to be the spokesman for that? Or Mike, do you want to lead it off?
Yeah, no, I don't really have any introductions. So,
Okay, so-
Ted and his team want to come up to the podium and speak? Or?
Start off with Nick here and kind of
Sure.
And if you'd state your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Nick Standiford. I'm a land use and zoning attorney at Shane Banks. Our address is 70 West Madison in Chicago, but I live over in Lake Forest, so not too far away.
Okay.
But don't hold that against me tonight. We're here tonight for the public hearing regarding my client's application for an exemption from the sprinkler ordinance requirement. You'll hear from the building owner, Ted Brown, and why he's seeking this exemption. You'll hear from the current tenants in the building as to why they oppose the sprinkler requirement. You'll hear from Matt Haylock, our architect. Matt, if you want to raise your hand, who is an architect who will address the FSCI report that's in your packets tonight. I'll then explain why this exemption application should be granted based on the criteria found in the village's new ordinance relating to sprinklers, as well as the policy decisions which exempted the churches from that same sprinkler requirement. So with that, I will hand the microphone over to Ted Brown.
Thank you. Ted Brown. The building where I keep my office is 962 North Shore Drive there in Lake Bluff. But first of all, I want to thank you all. It's been a long road, and you all were very gracious to set up this exemption process. And I know you're kind of inundated with information that we've put together, and you're probably choking on it. So I don't want to fillet the filet here tonight, but it is important. I'm a little stressed. I can't imagine the guy that's before a jury and he's facing 20 to life, but this is a much easier deal. Just to kind of set this versus residential versus the risk associated with commercial, in residential, 92% of the deaths that occur in fires are residential, 75% of the injuries, 50% are alcohol related, and 25% are cooking related. Some of my tenants here will address some of the practical difficulties in doing that. And I know the cost isn't a consideration for this board, but costs do come into play here. Tenants will bear a burden to this, and we have complied with all of the requirements related to a centrally monitored alarm system at no small cost, almost $90,000. One tenant is not in that system, and they do have a system, but it's not integrated with our system. It's the same type of system that the churches have. There's a number of things that were addressed, and Nick will touch on some of this, but we agree that if the building was built today, it would require a sprinkler system, but it was built in 1960. And we also concur that had it been built as a new building with a sprinkler system, the cost would be significantly lower to do that versus a retrofit. So there's somewhat of a penalty there. Mike, you had asked about the Knox box and some correspondence, but the Knox box on the building is set with a master key that will access the units for the fire department.
Okay.
Ms. Pudabaugh is here to address some of the issues related to the dogs. And I would add, too, that the sprinklers are for the protection of property. The alarm system is for the protection of personnel. You know, and it has been a very long compliance window that you have offered us, but it appears reasonable, but it's kind of uncoupled from the practicalities of owning and managing a building. You know, trigger events for remodeling of 50% of the building or change of a use of occupancy classification. The business is B2, and again, we can get into some of the finer points of this, but we do take issue with some of the classifications of the CrossFit gym being an assembly use. I have longstanding tenants. And they're really an important part of the business community here. They service Lake Bluff residents, and we would just like to find a way to work through this and make it manageable for them in terms of a financial perspective, in terms of a business operation perspective, and that's why we're here this evening. So thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Okay.
I'll be brief. My name is Betsy Puderbaugh, and I'm the owner of Yuppie Puppy. Last September 3rd, Yuppie Puppy had its 20th anniversary of opening its doors as Lake Bluff's very first doggy daycare and boarding business in 2003. I've been a tenant of Ted's that entire time. On April 1st, I will have owned it for the past 10 years. Over the past 20 years, approximately 475,000 dogs have come through our doors in the morning and safely gone back home to their owners every night. Every single day I wake up, the safety of the dogs at Yuppie Puppy is my #1 priority, and that's why I'm here in front of you tonight. We're here to discuss the need for a sprinkler system to protect the building in the event of a fire. A fire that, if it triggered the sprinkler system, would likely be engulfing the building. I'm asking that instead of the village focusing on the safety of the building, that it focus on what I've been nagging the fire department to do for the past 10 years, how to safely remove potentially 70 dogs that could be in the building at the time of a fire. For the first 5 years I owned Yuppie Puppy, I made periodic calls to the fire department to ask for a fire drill. I was told repeatedly that some would get back to me. No one ever did. One day a dog triggered the fire alarm. The firefighters showed up in their gear. After shutting off the alarm, I escorted them to just one of our 3 play areas where just 15 dogs were playing. Without collars and with no leashes available, I asked them what they would do if there was an actual fire at the time. And there were 50 dogs there that day. They looked like a deer in the headlights and acknowledged that they wouldn't know how they would get all the dogs to safety. I told them that I do have a plan. I just need to share it with them and go through a drill with them. I was told it was too expensive to hold a drill. A firefighter came out, listened to me to tell him what my concerns were. Later that week, he made some notes. That was the best I got. Where the dogs play and sleep at Yuppie Puppy is a large open area divided with non-flammable fencing, non-flammable pet grass on the floor, and 40 non-flammable glass suites. The only electrical thing left on at night are the fire lights. There isn't anything that could catch fire that's ever left unattended where no one is there. I spent $15,000 installing the fire safety lights and wiring required by the village code, and I've complied with all the fire safety requirements imposed by the Illinois Department of Agriculture. Yet I do not go to bed at night secure that the dogs in my care would survive a fire if one did occur. Not because we don't have sprinklers, but because the fire department would lose significant precious time trying to remove what would be very scared dogs from my building, having no access to leashes, and no plan how to safely secure them outside the building until they could be moved. I may not be there at the time of a fire broke out, or if I was, I would not be allowed in the building to be able to show them where I keep my carefully thought-out fire evacuation equipment that would assist them in quickly removing and securing every dog from the building safely. They would not know where I keep enough leashes to evacuate every dog. They would not know where to find, how to use, or how to secure the goat leads that I have stored to evacuate every dog. They would not have the cell phone number of Dr. Tony Dillon from Norwood Animal Hospital that I keep with the leashes and leads so he can be ready at any hour of the day for our prearranged plan to be able to transport the dogs to his outdoor pens at any hour of the day or night. What good do sprinklers do when the dogs are trapped inside? So here we are tonight asking my landlord to spend potentially $500,000 for a sprinkler system to protect a well-insured, low-fire risk cement block building with a metal roof, yet doing nothing to protect the live animals inside the building in the event of a fire. At any given time, there are significantly more dogs in that building than there are people. Yet here we are worried about protecting the building. A significant portion of my clients are taxpayers of Lake Bluff. I have to think that they'd be happy to have a very small amount of the village's budget allocated to an annual fire drill to potentially save their or their neighbors' dogs in the event of a fire and the village's only dog daycare and boarding business. The village requires my landlord to install sprinklers to protect his building at his expense, but does nothing to help protect the dogs that remain at risk. Then I'm actually happy to have this on record so that I can explain it to the press if or when a fire occurred. It's a real risk. We're the only business in town. In fact, I would say potentially the North Shore that has this risk, and I cannot get our local fire department to do anything about it, and sprinklers aren't going to do anything about it either. So I'm asking you to consider what the biggest, dogs are in that building, and at the vet next door, and cats, way more than there are people. We need to do more to think about protecting them than the building, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I wasn't here when your business moved in, but generally for similar uses with animals, the village has asked the business owner to share an evacuation plan for the animals with the village and the fire department that would have the information you're mentioning.
I can't even get that talked about.
Okay.
I can't, and I'm sure Ted would help fund that if he can save $500,000 on sprinklers, but I can't even get that discussed.
Anybody else want to speak to that?
Hey, everybody. Jay Miles with CrossFit Lake Forest. My family and I live in Lake Bluff. We've been here for about 25 years. But owner of CrossFit Lake Forest, for those of you that don't know, we're a physical fitness facility. A lot of people come in, they do group classes, et cetera. We're talking about the sprinklers. It would be a huge, as far as like our business, it would be a huge deal as far as having to shut the place down during installation, et cetera. In terms of our people having access during the time of that. The other thing is when we look at what's actually inside there is a lot of steel, a lot of metal, a lot of things that aren't flammable that are in our facility. Our facility is very wide open. We do have, in terms of our smoke detectors, everything like that is all set and good to go. I would really have an issue with having a sprinkler system put in there, just in terms of the types of activities that we do there. And like I said, because it's a big open space, and like I said, we have a lot of metal there. There's not a lot of flammable things in our unit. So that's a little bit about me and CrossFit Lake Forest. But thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Walter. I am owner of Forest Bluff Animal Hospital. We have the most updated space in Ted's building. We've been open for 5 years. When we opened it, we did everything we could, to oblige the fire safety, all that kind of stuff. We do not house any animals overnight. We, have a plan in action already, like we've had a couple of, the fire alarm's gone off a couple of times, and we can actually activate and remove everybody from the building in about 2 minutes. And we've had to do it a couple of times, where we're just like, box up anything we have, leash up everything we have, shuffle people out, everybody knows the escape routes and that sort of thing. So I think that we've done everything we can. I haven't really talked about this with Ted, but my problem with having a sprinkler system is we have a lot of very expensive equipment in there. We've got radiology, we've got laser, we've got, autoclaves, we've got surgical units and all these things. And I think that would, we leave nothing plugged in overnight. I think, Betsy said the same thing. We leave nothing on during the day, breakers are, the radiology units turned off, that sort of thing. So, but I do think that having a sprinkler system in case of a fire would be very destructive to our equipment. I mean, just on a personal basis. And like Jay, we don't really have anything flammable in there. So I would prefer not to have to incur the cost of the sprinkler system. We have everything we can to prevent fire in our units, so. Okay, thank you.
Greg McCarthy was to be here, and he's been at every meeting up to this point, and I'm not sure what the issue is, but I will put forth what I've heard him say multiple times, and perhaps you have too. His building and his business could not deal with a sprinkler system. If it was required, he would have to reconsider or find something as an option to conduct his business. The smoke would be a total loss to his FERS. The water would be a total loss to his FERS. But the probability that the chances of a water discharge for smoke or fire would be less than the fire. He has a vault. There are conditions where the temperatures are freezing that would present some challenges as well. So Greg could say it much better than I could, but I think those are the points that he would want spoken up before the board here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matt Haylock. I'm an architect with Arc America. Our address is 34121 North US Highway in Grays Lake, and we're in Suite 213. I'm not really here to refute anything that's, been in any of the reports or anything like that, or to even try to deny that the building doesn't comply with the current building code as far as sprinklers, because it doesn't. We all know that. What I wanted to do is try to clarify some of the things that have been in the reports, kind of describe them a little bit more in layman's terms so that everybody understands what it means, and kind of explain some things from our point of view. I've been to the building, walked the building, so I'm fairly familiar with it, and it was a good idea for the village to get fire safety consultants involved to kind of do their take as well, because they're very well respected in our area. But it's some of the things that they have opinions are a little bit different than ours. Not that that matters, but I just want you to understand what we're talking about. You saw the egress plan that we did, I'm sure, in your packets before. That didn't include a lot of relevant information really, but what it was trying to do is show that how the spaces were generally designed, that you have a correct egress path, that the plans all work and are according to the code, and you have plenty of egress doors, and everything is well in compliance as far as a floor plan standpoint. We classified all the businesses as type B business in the code, and I'll explain what that means in a moment. We also had classified it as a type 2B. And so the fire safety consultants had some comments regarding some of the things that we had. So with respect to the building type itself, just so you know, there's 5 different general building types, 1 through 5. 5 is Really, you can build it out of anything you want, wood, anything that's acceptable in the code. Type 2 has non-combustible exterior walls. I'm sorry, type 4 has non-combustible exterior walls, but something like a heavy timber roof. Type 3 is still non-combustible exterior walls, but anything that's acceptable for the code for everything else. And then what we classified the building as was a type 2, which is the next step, non-combustible primary building components such as walls, roof, floors. And when you look through the building, that's generally what it is. It's a masonry building, steel roof. One thing that we did miss is that there's mezzanines above the office space. Those are framed of wood. And that's one thing that's a little bit different. And so, I just want to say that we would, if in doing this again, we would have reclassified it as a 3B, which is a step down technically, but what it does is it allows wood in the construction. However, as far as the square footages that it allows is the base square footage. So like say for type B business, the maximum allowable now is 23,000 square feet as a base square footage. If you were to step down to a 3, that's 2B, I'm sorry. If we step down to a 3B, which is what I would do, it goes down to 19,000. So it's not like a huge difference. And if it was classifying something like an assembly or a mercantile, those square footages remain the same. So in reality, as far as what we're talking about, whether we classify it as a 3 or type 3 or a type 2, doesn't really matter. And just so you know, what's a type 2B, what's a type 2A? Usually when you have the A behind it in front of it, or I'm sorry, if it's a type 2A or type 3A, what that means is the components of the buildings are protected. So if you have a steel roof, it's protected with either spray fireproofing or drywall. So it has some fire rating protection. So it's not, immediately susceptible to the fire. So with the type B, what that means is there's no protection on the steel. There's no extra protection on the masonry, but it is masonry. And that's one thing that's a little bit different on this building than a lot of buildings of this type. It's not only are the exterior walls masonry, all of the demising walls between the tenant spaces are also masonry. And they have a 2-hour fire rating, and that's basically a classification of the UL testing. So the shell, other than the roof, it has a 2-hour fire rating. But that's really here nor there, but really the purpose of that is just to clarify what we're talking about as far as what this building is. A couple of other things I wanted to talk about was regarding one of the comments was that because we classified everything as a type, or as a occupancy classification of a B, which is business. And under business, it includes all different kinds of things. And the reviewer from Fire Safety Consultants stated that the CrossFit should be an assembly. So just so you know, and he specifically called out assembly A3, which is one of the classifications. And what that is it's assembly uses are generally, literally, this is right out of the code, assembly uses are intended for worship, recreation, amusement, and other assembly uses not classified as other type assembly uses. And under type 3, A3, you have things like amusement arcades, bowling alleys, museums, places of worship, which swimming pools, gymnasiums. The closest thing to this would be gymnasium if you want, because it's sports, but it's not really a gymnasium, obviously. This is CrossFit is more, that's physical training. You mentioned that they do have classes, but it's not like it's a school or anything. It's just for assisting people with training. And of all the business types, and we classified everything in our report as a business. And right in the code, under business is kennels, things like dry cleaning, motor vehicles, showrooms, business services, any kind of service, physicians, architects, attorneys. And then very specifically, it calls out training and skill development, not in a school or an academic program. And those It includes things such as tutoring centers, martial arts, gymnastics, and other similar uses regardless of ages served. So when we look at the code, we consider CrossFit more as a business use. It's not really for an intensive assembly purposes. It's really just for training. And they don't have a lot of people in there typically. So that's how we landed on the B business classification. And then they also mentioned the furrier. Obviously, that's a family business that's been around for many, many years, and they do sell furs. But when I went into this space and walked it, they do have a quote-unquote showroom, but it's very casual. It's almost by invitation or by appointment only, or you can show up if you want. But really, the bulk of their business is maintaining furs, repairing them, cleaning them, storing them. And my understanding is people from all over the country and even overseas ship their furs there to be taken care of and stored in the back. So it's not a retail store, as, in my opinion, as the reviewer had stated. And so that's kind of why we're classifying everything as B, which is kind of a broad-reaching, general business classification. It's a lot different than something like an assembly use, or even like a church where you get a lot of people in it. You've got a lot of elderly people, you get a lot of children, and you get a lot of people in general. None of these uses are like that. So I just wanted to clarify those few things. I'll be available later if you have any other additional questions, but I just wanted to bring those things up. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak to the issue?
Just me, sir.
Okay, sure. Do we want to get our guy in there too?
Yeah, I was going to mention if anyone has questions.
Yeah, well, he's.
Yeah, we'll do it after.
So in your packets, I'd like to address the staff report that was there, and which also included the FSCI report that's also in your packets. So starting with the staff report. Staff cited the following considerations as reasons for recommending denial of my client's exemption. The first is the dogs. The staff report said that the presence of a large number of animals significantly increases evacuation time. But you heard testimony tonight, if I can call her Betsy, said that she does have a plan on how to do it. She just hasn't had the fire department come over and do a fire drill and provide their input on the best way to make that happen. She said that most of her space is not flammable, and that, as you can see on the ingress and egress plans that we provided in your packet, there's ingress and egress two ways through the space. So I hope you had a chance to look at this, but you can get out in the front or you can get out at the back. So there's sufficient ingress and egress. We would appreciate the opportunity to have a condition, if the exemption was granted, that the operator consult with the fire department on an evacuation plan so that there can be coordination to get those animals out. I think that would be a smart idea. It sounds like it's been asked for a number of years. So another reason staff cited for denying the exemption was combustible materials. The staff report said that combustible construction materials present in the building go beyond what is allowed for non-combustible construction type. But as our architect has told you, the correct listing is 3B construction, which does allow such materials. And it does not materially alter the permitted square footage either. So combustible materials should not be a large concern. The building is, as we've heard, mostly metal, and doesn't have much wood at all. The contents of the building was a concern. The staff report said that the building contents contribute to a significant amount of flammable material. But if you read through the FSCI report, they said that there's basically some office material in there, but that's not, and that might be flammable, but that's not a real reason sufficient reason to deny the exemption because there's some loose paper or anything like that that's flammable. Another reason that was cited in the staff report was the first storage use. The staff report said that the first storage use significantly increases the risk of expensive property damage in the event of fire. But as Mr. McCarthy, who I wish could have been here tonight, he has been at all these meetings, when we were talking about the sprinkler exemption and all that stuff, he's been steadfast that his FERS would be ruined in the event of a false sprinkler deployment. He is insistent that if sprinklers are required, he does not know what he'll do with his business as he's had in the building for over 20 years. And as you heard Mr. Brown say, that false sprinkler deployment is much likelier to happen than an actual fire, an actual smoke. So that's why he's so concerned. So the first storage use, I don't believe increases the risk of expensive property damage any more than a sprinkler system would. The last part of the staff report said that the Knox box was a concern because in multi-tenant buildings have a lower likelihood of complete compliance. This is a multi-tenant building. A lower likelihood of complete compliance with the requirement to have keys in all spaces of the Knox box. But I think Mr. Brown testified that he's got a master key in there that has access to all tenant spaces, so that's not a concern. So those reasons set forth in the staff report, I think that they should be taken with a grain of salt, and we should look at the reasons for granting the exemption. We should look at the standards that were set forth, that were recommended by this body to the village board and enacted by the board. What are the standards? The first standard is, are there any unusual or practical difficulties in installing an automatic fire sprinkler system in the building? Well, if you look in the FSCI report, they basically say there's no difficulties at all. They don't appear to either understand the cost or they don't give any consideration to the cost and the disruption that all these tenants are here for tonight that's going to go into the effort to install a fire sprinkler system. FSCI doesn't care about that at all, it appears. But I wonder how many times FSCI has actually told somebody that they shouldn't put in sprinklers. I bet that amount is minimal. I think that's probably what they mostly do, is say you should put in sprinklers. But as Mr. Brown told you, this building, if it was occupied by one tenant, that would be achievable. But we've had multiple tenants here, and all the tenants aren't even here tonight. And to put them all out of business or on some limited basis in the building while this work is conducted is going to be very problematic. That's why they've spent time to be here tonight. So having all the tenant spaces disrupted at the same time is going to be a big problem and a difficulty that FSCI is not accounting for. And attempting to alleviate any tenant disruption. So how can we make sure that the tenants aren't disruptive? Well, you could have the workers show up at night. You could have them show up on the weekends, but what does that do? That increases the cost. That increases the cost dramatically. And that's not going to help the problem at all. And the scope of work isn't simply just to add sprinklers. Mr. Brown would have to run a water service line to his building. He'd have to install a water sprinkler equipment room somewhere in his building. Not sure where that's going to go. And he'd have to put in piping all throughout this building. He'd have to put in a dry piping system for McElroy Firs if that was required because of the freezing temperatures. So it's not just putting in a few sprinkler heads. He would have to outfit this building completely, a 1960s building, completely to new construction basically for a sprinkler system. And that is not an inexpensive cost, and that is a serious difficulty, a practical difficulty in installing the system that should be taken into account. So we have to remember too, these are tenants who have chosen to locate in Lake Bluff for the convenience to their customers and don't want to be driven out by the cost of this business's disruption and the cost that could be passed down on them if the sprinklers are required. The next standard is number 2. How does the size and location of the building in relation to the adjacent buildings impact the request? Well, in the FSCI report, they say that the layout of the building provides plenty of space for emergency response or evacuation, and that there is a very low risk of impact to adjacent buildings in the case of a fire event. That standard certainly favors the applicant. 3, Are there hazards in or around the building? Again, FSCI says there are no hazards outside of the building, and there are only ordinary hazards inside the building, such as paper goods, office furniture, cleaning supplies, computers, etc. The fact that there are combustible building materials only means that the 3B designation should be used. And using wood inside of a building does not present a potential serious hazard. It's commonplace in construction. What is the standard number four, what is the occupancy classification and the occupant load of the building? Well, as shown on the egress plan, the total occupant load is 352 people. There are 2 egress doors for each of the tenant spaces with a total of 12 egress doors that can accommodate 2,160 people. And if you go into the space on any given day, there's only about 55 or 65 people there, so that should not be a problem. Number 5, is there adequate access to the building for firefighting? Again, FSCI says, yes, in our opinion, there's adequate space for firefighting operations and truck access. In your packets, we provided a Google aerial shot showing you that you can go all around the building without any issue. Number 6, does the building meet or exceed the code requirements for egress and other life safety requirements? Okay, so the FSCI report, if you look at it, it said no for 3 reasons. It said, first, the retail space does not have a manual pull station. So if that's a concern, I think the building owner would be happy to make that a condition of the exemption, that this tenant will install a manual pull station and stipulate to that as a condition. That's not a big deal. The second was that they couldn't get access to the vacant space. That's what FSCI said. That was one of the reasons why I guess the applicant couldn't meet the code requirements for egress and other life safety requirements. But Mr. Brown is here tonight and can tell you that that space has the same fire alarm system, centrally monitored fire alarm system, as the other units in this building, except for McElroy First, which has its own fire alarm unit. And on that note, if you're taking notes, if you want to add another condition that would make the building safer, perhaps, it would be to have McElroy First integrate with that centrally monitored fire alarm system. That's the only one in the building that doesn't have a centrally monitored one, but we could make it. I think that would be a good solution there. The last thing that the FSCI report says with respect to the code requirements for life safety is they're concerned about the animals. They state that under the Illinois Animal Welfare Act, a kennel operator that is not staffed at all times has to have a fire alarm or a sprinkler system. But Betsy can tell you, it does have a fire alarm. So it does comply with that act. And what Betsy will also tell you is that annually she files a report with the Illinois Department of Agriculture, and they can confirm that it complies with the state law requirements. So the state is not concerned with her operations. Number 7, I think this is the last one. The FSCI, the FSCI report actually says, does the building require, and this is on probably the second to last page or the last page, page 4, does the building require an automatic sprinkler system without any amendments to the village's adopted codes? But if you look at the village ordinance, that's not the standard at all. I don't know where they're getting that, but the FSCI report actually says with respect to this standard that they put in here, that if it was new construction, it would have to be sprinklered. But everyone agrees with that, right? This building was built in the 1960s. The standard is actually whether, notwithstanding the village's local amendments, the adopted edition of the International Building Code and/or other building codes adopted by the village of Lake Bluff would require an automatic sprinkler system in the building. So, in our packet, we put forward what we believe to be the International Building Code requirements for sprinklers. And you can see that what the International Building Code does is it says if you're changing occupancy, then you need sprinklers. If you are changing occupancy classification, you need sprinklers. Or if you're doing work on 50% or more of the building, then you need sprinklers. So if those types of requirements were set forth in the ordinance, I think Mr. Brown would be satisfied that he could comply with that, but that's not what we have here. So, and if you look, we also included in the packet all the communities up and down the North Shore that have similar requirements to the International Building Code. This ordinance that we have here tonight, these standards that I've just read out, I haven't seen those in any of the other towns. So this is a difficult task tonight, is whether or not we meet these standards. I submit to you that we do, for all the reasons that we've set forth. But it'll be your obligation to determine that. So I've set forth a few potential conditions that you could impose that may help that process. But, you know, the International Building Code requirements are probably the guidepost that I would look to for when this building needs to be sprinklered. So, in conclusion, we have showed that our application meets the village's standards. And let's remember, the village has already exempted the churches in this town from requiring sprinklers. The only thing the churches had to do to get exempted from having sprinklers was to put in a centrally monitored fire alarm system, which is exactly what Mr. Brown has spent, I think, $90,000 to do. So his building is a one-story building, not with stairs. He's got sufficient access for firefighting. He doesn't have close to as many people as coming on each day as the churches have. So the village should be comfortable with Mr. Brown's building and all the work he's put in to make it safe, and all the tenants who are sitting here tonight saying, we do not want sprinklers in this building. So I hope you grant their wishes. Thank you.
So I don't know if there are more people from the
I
audience.
don't-
who wanna
does
have
anybody
any
else have
statement, or
anything to
if I
say?
should ask. So,
Related to this? We're all talked out? Okay,
okay.
Unless there's questions, of course.
so you want to get,
Yeah, so we do have Seth Sommer from FSCI who wrote the report on the Zoom here. Seth, so he's available for any questions the board has, and also I'll open the floor to him if he would like to make some comments or respond to anything he's heard so far. Go ahead, Seth.
Yeah, thank you for having me this evening. Appreciate it. Everybody did a good job of presenting their side of the case. Attorney, I didn't catch your name, but you did a good job presenting, representing the owner of the building. But yeah, I do have some things to just say. You know, first and foremost being our report reflects our opinion as industry experts that have been doing this work for many, many years. Our staff has undergone certification testing, experience in this, working for municipalities, fire departments, and doing sprinkler reviews, building reviews, helping communities, consulting for owners of buildings, you know, similar to this. So we've done a lot of things in the industry, and that's what our report reflects. And so I can appreciate counter arguments and not agreeing with some of the things that we have to say, which is normal in this line of work. We're used to it. I think everybody is. Because although the codes are written in black and white, they tend to be gray sometimes, and it takes people to actually interpret them and enforce them, and there's, you know, challenges in doing that. So this is, again, based on our experience. So I just wanted to address a couple of the things that some of the tenants had to say, and as well as the owner and owner's representative. Regarding accidental discharge of fire sprinkler system, you know, industry statistics that we have access to say being struck by lightning, you're more than 5,000 times more likely to be struck by lightning during your lifetime than the odds of a sprinkler head accidentally being activated. Furthermore, if a sprinkler head does go off, it's just one single head. And in this type of building, that one sprinkler head puts out about 22.5 gallons per minute. So let's say after 10 minutes, you're talking 225 gallons, 20 minutes, 450. So you get the idea of where I'm going is if a sprinkler head did discharge the amount of water, we're not talking a catastrophe. Furthermore, if the sprinkler system does discharge water, it's monitored through the alarm system, so the fire department and building owner are notified immediately as well. Whereas an alarm system depends on the fire generating enough heat and smoke to activate one of the detectors. And by the time responders get there, the fire can overtake a space in a building pretty fast. And then in regards to a sprinkler system uh, causing more smoke to be present if it were to put out a fire. And this is more specifically towards the yuppie puppy space. And I get that, some of the space does not have flammables and things, but essentially everything in that building can burn given the right conditions. And fires are accidental. Nobody plans for them. Nobody tries to leave things plugged in, or sometimes people forget, and that's all it takes is one instance where somebody forgot something one day. And it doesn't even have to be you. It can be somebody in the space next to you or the space next to them. So as well as everybody tries, we're all human, and things happen. But if a fire grows unchecked, it tends to produce more smoke because it consumes more fuel, generates higher temperatures, leads to incomplete combustion, and releases more smoke particles. And when a sprinkler system activates and suppresses the fire, it actually does so at an early stage before the fire has had a chance to reach its full intensity. So by cooling the fire and limiting its spread, sprinklers reduce the amount of smoke produced compared to a fire that is allowed to develop without any intervention. And sprinkler systems are not meant to just prevent or protect property, as somebody had said earlier. It is first and foremost to provide time for people to get out of the building. It is meant to maintain egress long enough so that people can get out of the building. It does also have the benefit of protecting property, whereas a fire alarm system only notifies people to get out of the building but does not protect the property at all. So I just wanted to clarify that. As far as figures go, and based on our research and talking with some professionals in the industry, we were coming up with a figure in the ballpark of 125 to 250,000. As far as installing the sprinkler system in the building and running we estimated a 6-inch water service entering the building. But, that's based on our facts and figures. And obviously, if anybody's going to do this project, they would bid it out to several contractors to verify they're getting the best pricing. And as far as practical difficulties with installing the fire sprinkler system go, and FSCI, just because our name is Fire Safety Consultants, doesn't mean we just say put sprinklers in. I take exception to that. We say follow the code. That's all we say is follow the code. And if the code requires it, the code requires it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And does it have a lot of benefits? Yes, it does. But everybody's got to determine if you don't have to put one in, is it beneficial to do so? And there's a lot of considerations to be made for that. So we do understand that there would be some difficulties as far as the tenants, would have to be, put out and perhaps close their businesses for a period of time. I don't know how long that number is or what that looks like. And perhaps, the village could grant a longer time to comply so that, it can be done in a way that disrupts the businesses at a slower pace. A couple other things. To talk about the classification of the building being 3B as opposed to 2B, I don't really have much argument against that. You know, we took the architect's designation, that they designated it as a 2B building, so we responded accordingly. You know, if I were to classify the building, I may be able to make an argument for it to be 3B. That would mean the exterior load-bearing walls are also 2-hour rated, which they may be given the type of construction that they are, but there would be some additional questions to ask. But they're right. If it was classified as 3B construction, you would be allowed to have wood material in the building, for sure. The serious hazard that I was pointing out is in regards to it being classified as a 2B building. So the fact that there's not supposed to be anything combustible in 2B building, I hope that makes sense as why it could be a serious hazard. And then in regards to the occupant load and classification of the CrossFit tenant, you know, the architect for the applicant had specified an occupant load over 100. You know, our calculation was around 130, and the industry standard for calculating these types of spaces and designating them, just purely based off the information we had. And by the way, we did make a site visit to the property. Whenever you have this type of use with over 50 people, the standard is to classify it as an assembly occupancy, and the assembly occupancy that it most likely resembles is an A3 occupancy, hence the designation. Now, as the building, if I were the building official of Lake Bluff, I'd be willing to hear a case for classifying as at a B occupancy, and, you know, maybe designating a maximum occupant load to be in that space. So I don't argue that fact that you could make a, you know, statement or propose something to classify it as a B occupancy. But, you know, without being able to make our determinations ourselves, we have to go with what the code says at that point. And then, yeah, and this isn't, you know, meant to be negative or anything, just to state a fact here. Sorry, it's rather an opinion. Having a retroactive sprinkler requirement is not very typical, as the applicant pointed out, surrounding communities. And I can even speak to other communities, not even surrounding Lake Bluff. It's not very common to have a retroactive sprinkler ordinance. That being said, the village board made a conscious decision with, you know, at that time to put that into the code, and felt that that was something that the town required and the buildings in that town required, and the tenants in that town would, you know, benefit from. So, you know, rather than question why it's in there, you know, there was wisdom, I have to assume there was wisdom and thought that went into putting that into the ordinance. And not only that is, you know, according to the staff report, which I didn't know at first, the requirement was actually amended to be put out to a further date, you know, to give people extra time for compliance. So it's not like this was an overnight thing that, you know, building owners had to wrestle with. It's been in the ordinance for many, many years. And that doesn't make it right or wrong. Again, I'm just stating my opinion, you know, as somebody in the industry and that's seen this in many, many municipalities and done this for a long time. So that is my long-winded, you know, response to what was said so far this evening, and I'm definitely willing to entertain any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Seth. Okay, up here, the Does anybody have any questions for anybody out there, or Source F, or?
Sounds like he has a comment.
Yeah, I asked the
Oh.
SCI consultant
Sure.
any questions.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you.
You probably ought to stay up there.
I didn't get your name, sir. What was it again?
Oh, yeah, my name is Seth Summer.
Mr. Summer. Mr. Summer, in your report, you indicated that there's an obstruction in one of the rear exits, is that right?
Yes, that was for the Yuppie Puppy space. There was kind of a makeshift gate that was in front of the exit door.
And if that was removed, that would make the building safer, in your opinion?
Yes.
And you heard testimony about a fire drill for the dogs that would be conducted with the Lake Bluff Fire Department on an annual basis. Do you believe that that would make the building safer?
Yeah, as much as I'd like to answer yes or no, I don't know that it makes the building safer. It does make the dogs safer in case of an emergency. I hope that distinction makes sense.
It does. And you mentioned in your report that there's a retail space that needs to install a manual pull station, is that correct?
Correct.
And installing that would make the building and occupants safer?
Yes.
And in your report, you said that if the village chose to grant the exemption, those are the types of remedies that could be provided, correct?
Correct.
In that same line of thought, couldn't also some of the criteria or some of the conditions imposed if the exemption is granted be that the building in the future comply with the International Building Code requirements for retrofitting buildings with sprinklers?
Just the code requirements or the amended codes?
Well, you have to tell me what's the difference.
Well, as you pointed out very well, is that the IBC requirements themselves only are triggered upon change of occupancy and some other factors, whereas the amended codes talk about if you change the occupancy, put an addition on, commence a renovation, then you need to add sprinklers. So do you see the difference?
I'd have to look at them in more detail. Do the amended codes talk about a remodel of more than 50% of the building area?
I'll defer to Mike at the moment. I will have to pull that up to let you know for sure.
Yeah, in our local code, local amendments, we actually changed the criteria in the last code amendment. Currently, it says if you remodel more than 50% of a tenant space, among other criteria. And of course, there's the January 1st, 2026 criteria too, that says you have to install them by then.
But that talks about a tenant space, not the building space, correct?
50% of the building.
What's the difference?
Yeah, either one.
It says building
It's in the
or
building.
tenant space.
Right, correct.
Because the code is saying, my understanding of the code was that if prior to the date by which you have to put the sprinklers in, you remodel either 50% of your building or 50% of any tenant space within a building, then you have to put in sprinklers. I wasn't under the understanding that that continues thereafter. I guess my point is, following the International Building Code, requirements for sprinklers could be a condition that the Architectural Review Board could impose, correct?
I don't know who you're asking.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let me ask you this. That could presumably make the building safer.
Installing sprinklers?
No.
Just-
Providing the criteria in the International Building Code, making those conditions of the exemption here.
It could make the building safer should it trigger something to happen to the building that actually makes it safer. So you could theoretically do remodelings per the International Building Code that don't trigger any upgrades or anything like that. It doesn't make the building safer. However, you could do remodeling and renovations or additions that trigger additional requirements that could make the building safer. So just to say that, I guess, yes, it could make the building safer given the right circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
Art, you have any questions? Anything else out there for now? Go ahead.
I'm sure I have to leave your kids, but my question is like, how
If you could come to the podium.
Just a general question. I mean, to interrupt our businesses, which were, impacted by COVID as well, like to interrupt our businesses and, cause us to close and not perform services to our community and our pets and that sort of thing is a little bit, it's like in a total disregard to our income and our welfare and our patients' welfare, right? So that really makes me a little mad. But also, like, I'm a member of a church. It's in Lake Forest, so we're not dealing with this. But I'd love to know how the churches got an exemption. Like, how was that allowed? Does it just take louder, more voices to make that happen? That seems a little bit unfair considering most of the churches are built of wood. Where are the sprinkler systems in here? Do you know what I mean? I know it's not by
There are
code.
sprinklers in this building. That's
Where are
the
they?
circular discs, the
Oh,
circular
okay.
discs.
Well, it's like buildings that are made of wood, it's like throwing rocks at a glass house. It's like, how did they get an exemption if we're not allotted that exemption when we're built of cinder block and steel? Does that make sense to anybody? Can someone explain how they were exempt?
That was a fairly long process, and they're really not built of wood.
There's no wood, there's no.
There's a lot of wood,
There's not benches
Yeah,
and
you're right.
altars that are all wood.
and I don't recall exactly the process, but I know it went through many, many months of discussion and
Yeah,
what
I
they
just-
had to do.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they're active one day a week as far as filling up the whole congregation.
Well, there's definitely fewer humans involved in our buildings than there are in a church.
Absolutely.
So it's like, okay, just wondered, I just want fairness all around if we can, And again, we're talking about income for a lot of people and servicing a lot of people in this community that would be disruptive. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just add, if we had to close for any period of time, we will be out of business. Never once in 20 years have we not had a dog at every puppy. Even through COVID, which we only made it through because of PPE loans, did we have to close? If we have to close, our business will be gone, even if it's for a week. So that is no small thing to just throw out. Well, the businesses may have to close for a little while. I have 15 employees that strikes fear in me to even think about that. So I just want to say that was thrown out as a maybe. It'll be devastating.
Understand.
I think David Graff wanted to speak.
David, you want to speak to the,
Thank you. David Graff, Fire Chief. Couple of points. First of all, I really would like to directly address the Yuppie Puppy matter. I was really saddened and disappointed to hear your report. My recollection is in the first 2 years of Yuppie Puppy being in the village, that I personally and members of the fire department met with ownership on site and the staff and walked the building and reviewed the operation and discussed what would be done in that particular unit in case of an emergency. It seems to me, as my memory serves, we reviewed the location and the purpose of the leashes. The discussion was to take the animals out the north door, across the parking lot, and attach them to stakes that were going to be put in the ground on the north side of the parking lot. Those stakes have never been installed, to my knowledge. There was further discussion of how we would do that in the winter if there was snow in that area. I thought we had a plan. I certainly didn't bring them with me tonight. I didn't anticipate it. But I believe there's written correspondence between Yuppie Puppy and the Lake Bluff Fire Department to that effect and what we would do there if there was a fire. So I'm very disappointed that you don't feel we have that. And certainly in the next short period of time, we should get together again to address that. And I would welcome that opportunity. Thank you. I also think we need to remember that this ordinance was put in place in 2005. And Mr. Brown has known that since 2005 and has not taken action. There have been 2 extensions during that period of time, and Mr. Brown has not done that. With the vast majority of other industrial and business buildings and multifamily occupancies in the village complying with the retrofit portion of our ordinance to improve, they saw the benefit, took into consideration the disruption and cost to modify their building and did so. I think our consultant has spoken to a number of factors of the benefits. I understand the concern, and there is merit in their concerns. There is also benefit, great benefit to property and life, the occupants of it. In this particular case, we also have animals, and we have the firefighters that will go in following the folks leaving the building. The fact that, as was pointed out, sprinklers are designed so a single head goes off. If it goes off down in CrossFit, Yuppie Puppy at the other end of the building is going to learn of it through the alarm system, but they won't have water in there. It's the same with the furs and so forth. It's going to go off in the area where there may be an emergency. Okay? I think that we have discussed at this board's level and at the village board's level numerous times as to what we believe as a village is the benefit to all that are concerned. And I think, and I would ask that this board can continue to support the codes as the village has adopted and had in place since 2005. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody up here have any comments? Art, want to start there?
Just, you know, I think this is where sort of the rubber hits the road, that, you know, we've been kicking this can down the road, and now the question is, we created this exemption route, and do we want to, you know, grant an exemption? The one thing that seems telling to me that if the building was built today, regardless of what the Lake Bluff codes are, they would be required to put a fire sprinkler. I think it, you know, I'd be swayed if they said it's only because of the Lake Bluff ordinance that a sprinkler would be required. That, I guess, is my view.
Neil? You must have run into this.
I've got my notes. According to the document that Mr. Brown presented to us, in Lake Bluff and Highland Park and Libertyville, buildings are exempt if they were in compliance when they're constructed. I'm concerned about that because I happen to own some buildings in other cities where we have similar problems. In Highland Park, when Fort Sheridan was remodeled into residential, they were very concerned about the historic buildings. They did not the developer went to the city and said, in lieu of putting in fire sprinklers, we would like to put in more alarm systems that are required and that are all centrally alarmed. The city went along with that because of the historic preservation efforts. I'm very concerned that something be set up, and this would be up to the landlord, to make sure that all the exit doors are clear. And if there is a door like the one that they mentioned in Yuppie Puppy that is blocked, that shouldn't happen. And my feeling is that, particularly because of Lake Forest and Highland Park and Libertyville, I do think that our code goes overboard. So because of those things, I'm going to vote in favor of an exemption, provided that the following four things happen. Number one is that more smokes and alarms than required be installed in each of the tenant spaces. Number two, they all be centrally monitored together. Number three, adequate pull stations everywhere. And number four, I don't know if this might exist, but I've had buildings in the past when a fire alarm went off and the fire department came, they didn't know which unit to go to. Subsequent installations have required that an indicator light be installed outside of each entry door, so that if an alarm goes off inside that unit, that's the light that goes on, so that when the fire department or police department or whoever it might be comes to the building, they know where to go. So those are my comments.
Ed?
I kind of fall in Neil's camp, so that's, really, I don't have any comments other
Okay.
than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, we're making pretty big decisions here, which sometimes it feels, sometimes above our pay grade in terms of safety of firefighters, safety of the animals. Then we have the viability of a business if they're put out, if what is said is to be believed, is an empty building because we impose certain codes, worth it to the village. And someone who's given our community such service, even though there's not one word, I think, in any of this about financial, obligations and hardships in reviewing the exemption status or standards. So to me, it's a tough one, I know that our fire department is a volunteer fire department, and they give their time and their lives to us. We weigh that against the community, service community that the tenants give us. And it's a tough one. This is our first one. As we said, the rubber's meeting the road with this meeting. And, I don't know if I can make a decision tonight without truly weighing what precedents would be setting here if we give exemption to them. Are we going to get retroly, sued by people who have done it with similar issues that, or is it that we're setting precedents and we're going to just have an onslaught like we do with other items in our code, and our code becomes kind of just words on paper because they're not, we're kind of going back and forth on exactly what are the standards to be met here for an exemption. So this is a tough one. I'm going to have to weigh this a lot to see where we go with this, because I do believe in both camps here, and it's a tough one. What I wouldn't want to do is go to bed one night and see a fire blazing and something bad happening to one of our firefighters, something happening to the pets, and Yuppie Puppy. I also don't want to see businesses leaving our community for all the devotion they've given to it. It's a tough one. So I'm not prepared right now to say one way or another.
Sue?
Oh, I really squarely with Matt on that, because I can really see how passionate you all are and how much you have. These are your businesses. I mean, COVID was rough, so that makes a lot of sense. I tend to really think about the animals, definitely. And Seth answered a couple questions I had about the sprinklers, and if it's not like the movies where they go off and they all go off and ruin everything. Apparently, it's just triggered one, if that's where it is. I like that idea a lot. It makes me feel better about the animals a little bit, giving more time for the fire, department to get there. It seems like the damage from one sprinkler or two would be less than firemen coming in there with hoses and, that seems like huge damage to property. On the other hand, putting in the sprinkler system does sound like it's a big financial issue, and is that on the heels of COVID? I don't know. And to your point about your business and being out of business, that's a real thing. On the other hand, if I did have a dog there, I would worry that there wasn't a safe plan to get my dog out quickly, or if God forbid, there was a fire, they didn't get there in time, or the smoke, or the fire hoses and the panic. I don't know. That could hurt your business too. You know what I mean? If people really were aware that it's not necessarily, really secure as far as if there was an emergency. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I really am torn. I'm sorry, but I really am. I don't know. It's really tough. And I think Matt's point about the code too, because it's kind of like that book that you read as a kid, which is like, what if everybody did it? So it's like, if you make rules and then you don't really follow them, then what about people who did spend a lot of money already, people in the future? There's that consideration as well. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, as Seth said, it's gray. And I'm going to say that I kind of go along with exactly what you said, Neil, but I'm not going to say that yet, because I'm kind of feeling like, wait a minute, we got to think about this. I don't want to knee jerk. I've known Dave Graff for probably close to 50 years, and I have an imminent trust in this fantastic fire department we have. They could get down to that building in under 10 minutes without blinking an eye, because they've done it. And so I have no question that thing wouldn't be covered before the smoke would be this high. But that's just my opinion. My opinion right now is that I can't make the opinion yet. And I think that we're pretty close, maybe, but maybe not, because lives are at stake here. I watched a barn burn down with 6 horses in it, and they managed to get the horses out. And I don't know how you get 80 dogs out. Horses, you can cover them with a wet towel and over their head, and they're a little bit better to handle. But how you do 80 dogs, or 70 dogs, or 50 dogs? I can't do 2 dogs. I don't know what kind of plan you come up with.
You just have to do drills.
Yeah. And, if I'm a fireman, I better have iron gloves on to try and get a dog who doesn't want to be got, especially if it's a 90-pound guy. So anyway, I guess my comment would be, I got to think about it a little bit more. This is, it's one thing to read all the reports and kind of think, yeah, we got to do this and this and this. And it's another thing to hear how this affects everybody. And financial doesn't come into it, even though we've had this code in place for many years. I agree with Dave, the chief. We probably should have made this decision a long time ago. And I don't know if that would have been any easier then, but I'm just going to start rambling if I don't shut up. So I would suggest that if we can we hold this off and give us a little time to think about it?
Yeah, the board can make a motion to continue it to the next meeting.
Does
if you want
anybody
to.
disagree with that? To give ourselves a little bit of time to kind of think about it?
I think we would, I'm all for not trying to make a decision tonight, because I don't know where, there'd be a lot of abstain, I'm not even sure what we would do. But I think if we do hold it off, we need to have something that gets us there by the time we meet again in a month.
Then maybe we have a little in meeting again between,
Yeah, it's,
Well, we would
What-
have to, notify people and do a special meeting then if you want to meet in between.
yeah, I just think if it's seeing what other communities are doing, seeing what response times are, see what histories are, see what the ramifications of giving an exemption is to this party, and what does that mean from now on? Because we're going to set precedents one way or another.
yeah.
And,
Well, and the rules don't always apply to everybody all the time.
and that's true, but only because their situation's going to be different. And I think everybody's going to have a financial situation, and that's 90% of the concern here.
There's a difference between the cost of doing it and the cost of losing
Right,
your business, your livelihood,
right. Yep.
and having an empty building.
Yeah, all those things. It's tough.
So if that's agreeable, and agreeable to you folks, I mean, that's something,
Yes would be better, but.
I know, but,
April 2nd is the next meeting.
we have to have a decision by then.
Would you reach a decision prior to that meeting, or would that decision be made?
I'm not quite sure legally how we'd be able to do
The
that.
decision will be made at the meeting. We would just do probably for the record, it'd be best to do a formal motion to continue the item to a date certain to the April 2nd meeting, and then that way, that's when the decision would be made. A decision wouldn't be made beforehand, it would be made at the meeting, and then that way, that would allow time for the
We can
applicant.
provide some supplemental materials for your consideration.
You could, as far as I'm concerned, I've heard what I need to hear. Now I just need to weigh it. I don't know about anybody else, if you have some stuff that you don't, what I would like to do is, we can meet, not at a formal meeting, but we could meet, not quorums.
Well,
If I wanted to see Neil for coffee and say, what do you think?
Well, the decision by the board should be made in open
Well, I know.
session with the board.
It wouldn't be a decision by the board. It would just be trying to gather the various opinions.
I mean, you can make, you can contemplate what you've heard tonight by the applicant. I mean,
Yeah.
as you see fit. We just can't have a final decision by the board, before the
Okay,
date.
well, then we all have to just, contemplate ourselves within the next month and then come back and say yes or no. I guess it's going to be that's what we have to do. This is where the rules I don't like, where you can't really go outside and say, discuss stuff.
I have a question. You can discuss with the board.
And that's the law.
Right, a majority of the quorum of the board,
Yeah.
correct.
I do have one question. As far as like businesses having to close to install sprinkler systems, is there anybody who is, maybe Seth, if he's still there? Is there any way to phase it or like work in one part of a space while people are in another? I mean, how realistically long does it usually take to do something, particularly in this building? With the access, isn't there open ceilings or, do you know what I'm asking? Like,
Yeah.
I know there's the cost of doing it, which is one thing, which is actually financial, which you've said is 125 to maybe 200 as far as your guess. But my next question is for the people who are the business owners and they're really worried about having to close their business. Are we talking about is there any way to mitigate that or find out what that amount of time is? Because I know that's also a concern other than the cost.
Yeah, and that's definitely a valid concern. Yeah, and if we're talking an empty building with nobody in it, they can crank those things out in a couple of weeks. In your particular case at this building, a lot of the space is open ceiling, which is, pretty huge. As far as phasing it, yeah, most certainly you can phase it. And as somebody had mentioned before, perhaps it was the attorney, if you phase it, it's going to cost more. because the contractors are going to be out there longer, and that's just going to be more time for labor. Material costs are going to be the same, regardless. It's just the labor gets extended out. But yeah, as far as like in your particular space, because where the dogs are is mostly open, they use lifts and everything to, put the sprinklers up in the ceiling near the roof where they go. And so if I had to take a guess, it'd be something that in your space could maybe be done in a week or two, to get it retrofitted. And that's not to say that animals can't be in there at that time. They just may have to be relocated to a different part of the open space, and they'd have to, section off so that if something fell from the ceiling, it wouldn't compromise the animals. There may be a way to keep the business open or minimize the time that's shut down. And that's going to vary for other spaces throughout the building. Where the ones where you have a ceiling is going to be, a lot more difficult, as far as phasing and stuff like that. So that's going to present some additional costs based on the time that it will take them, but it's certainly feasible.
And then I just had one other question. Is there such a thing as, how like in an apartment building, maybe a landlord waits till somebody moves out and then they kind of renovate it between tenants type of a thing as tenants turn over? So is there such a thing as bringing the main line in and doing things slowly over time as tenants change between, like a stipulation where you could run the main line and also put in those other stipulations to make sure it's safe other than the sprinklers. And then as tenants revolve between them, the stipulation is it has to be upgraded sprinkler-wise in that space? Or is that just crazy talk?
It's not crazy talk. It's actually very good point. The problem is going to be the system is designed for it to be all online at one time. Like the pipes are pressurized and all the calculations have to do with, the whole building being sprinkled. So you could, as tenants move in and out, there's going to be a couple things to consider. Is yes, you could put the sprinkler pipe in, but what if the new tenant coming in has a different layout or something like that, or needs to put a ceiling in where there isn't a ceiling, or vice versa? I mean, there's some pretty serious design changes that may have to be made to the sprinkler system. So I like the thought process on where you're going with that. It's going to be probably mostly impractical just due to the design considerations and the fact that you couldn't turn the sprinkler system on just for that one tenant, or you could, but you'd have to redesign the system every time you added another tenant. And I mean, you can just imagine, the cost and time associated with that.
That makes sense.
Well, you got two tenants that have been there 20 years anyway.
Right. I'm just trying, because there's some way that it's like less disruptive, or you could spread the cost out, or it eventually complies, but not, do you know where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas? Just asking.
No pressure. I think, I don't know. You're asking my idea, so I'm going to answer you, and whether or not anybody wants to take it into consideration is up to them. But, as far as if it's going to be required to be put in, granting them time to put it in, they could give them a later date to get it in by, or just if there's permitting fees, maybe they could, assist with the permit fees. If there's, I don't know what the community development department is like, and what the means are for business assistance. So let's say you guys have downtime. Are there resources to supplement the income of the lost business for those businesses? And sorry, Lake Bluff, if you guys can't support that, it's just an idea. If there's, grant funding or some kind of funds available to help mitigate the costs. Are there costs to help put the sprinkler system in? Are there grants or any, type of things available for building owners to do that? Are some of my ideas. It's just off the top of my head.
Well, no idea is a bad idea.
Okay, where are we here?
Oh, looks like we got the video. Oh.
Do we want to try and make a final on next month, or do you want to go ahead and cut bait now? You can't.
Yeah, I don't think I could make a decision that I could go to bed tonight with and feel that I didn't do a disservice to one party or the other without full understanding.
Yeah. What I would like to do, and what I tried to do Saturday, was go down and look at these buildings. I did get in the sports place, and that ceiling has got to be 15, 18 feet up there? 14. 14? Okay. So, you're probably the guy that let me in. All right. So that means that when you're in there, you've got either scaffolding or the scissors lift, and they're all over the place, and cutting pipe and so on and so forth. It's messy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, enough of that. So are we going to hold off? Does anybody agree to that?
If so, it'd be best to have somebody make a motion
Yeah.
to continue.
Well, yeah, I'm going to do that.
Okay.
So who wants to make that motion?
What's the best way to?
We'll just continue.
We'll just continue?
Make a motion to continue.
Yeah.
It's April 2nd.
Sure. I move to continue the consideration of a fire sprinkler exemption request for 960, 970 North Shore Drive until our next meeting.
Throw a second to that.
I'll second.
All right. Okay. Do we need a roll call on that?
We should do a roll call vote, just for the record,
Okay,
just to show that all.
Okay.
okay, do a roll call. Member Cottrell.
Aye.
Member Dahlman.
Aye.
Member Deegan.
Aye.
Member Kerouac.
Aye.
And Member Wicks.
Aye.
And Chair Hunter.
All right.
Okay, motion passes.
This is called kicking the can.
Yeah. Not at all. Thank you for your time.
If you have anything else that you'd like to add, forward it to Mike,
Yep.
and he'll distribute it, or anybody else on.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Pleasure to be part of this. Thank you.
I remember doing stuff at Lake Forest Hospital and trying to keep it going.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, that building was built in 1948.
Oh,
and we
yeah,
did-
right.
We did all kinds of stuff, yeah.
Right, right.
What's up next?
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
The North Shore Water Reclamation.
Okay, next up is North Shore Water Reclamation District.
He's going to yell at us.
Okay, so this one we put away. That was so hard.
It's a real short meeting tonight, huh?
Lost my crowd.
Went home to eat.
Well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Mr. Altooni and Mr. Whitmer know a lot about sprinkler systems. I do too. I'm a general contractor and took a two-story office building at a third floor, 6-inch by 14-inch timbers now in Lake Forest. They allowed it. Brought in a 6-inch water main, cost about 60 grand,
Yeah.
and sprinkled the building for almost 100 more.
Yeah.
So I know what they're talking about.
Right.
But I've had sprinkler heads freeze up too, so it's
Have you?
it's a tough issue.
Are you glad you did it? Do you feel?
For
do you
sure.
feel-
Now,
feel
you're gonna
peace
have
of mind?
nine apartments in there with people living there, so
Yeah.
it's just, I think, an expectation in the fire department that you really rely on, so, especially here.
Yeah.
So it is a challenging issue, and
It really is.
it is. And there's a lot of outdated buildings over there, as you know, so how do you support those people?
So Tom, just for the record,
My name is Tom Swarthout. I'm the Fourth Ward trustee for the North Shore Water Reclamation District. I'm happy to be here again. I live in Lake Forest, 987 Maplewood. I think one of my pride and joys is a home I built on the corner of Maple and Center. Sold it to Dave and Ann Walters 30 years ago. It was a little cottage, put a porch around it, and they've been there since, and they've become great friends. It's a great little piece of property.
Maple and Center, I got to get
Maple
that
and
right.
Center is a gray house with a white porch all the way around. It was a little cottage, and we tripled the size of it many years ago. Did it on the weekends. So, but thank you for having me. As some of you know, I've been in front of this board and others in the village. We are approximately 6 months from completing the project, a 1 million-gallon tank underneath the south beach. We have it all poured in place. We need to put the cap on top of that project. It's very similar to the one in Lake Forest. It's half the size, but it is structurally the same kind of project. It can certainly withstand the weight that we're proposing. And so I'm here to discuss some of the comments that the village has requested, and I'll be brief. I think we're in support of all of those, so I can get into the details of it. It's a $16 million project, and as some of you may know, I'm one of 5 trustees in the district. Our borders go from basically Lake Cook Road all the way to the Wisconsin border, go out to the tri-state, and even in beyond to take on some of the municipalities all the way out to Grays Lake. This is a project that we're funding out of our own cash, and so there's no bonds involved. We do have the ability to bond up to about $400 million. We currently have no debt. We are probably the most fiscally responsible public entity in the state of Illinois. But despite that, only 3 of the 5 trustees supported the project. I have 2 trustees who don't understand why we're supporting a yacht club. And I understand it. So we're very fiscally prudent, yet this is an important project to protect the lake. And we're pleased to, add an amenity that Lake Bluff sorely needs. As I said almost 2 years ago, the 2 buildings down there are kind of an embarrassment in terms of the aesthetics. I'm about that, and my whole career has been about what a building looks like. This is a sad example of function is better than what it looks like, and it's
Better than form.
certainly is. Certainly is. So we've tried to add some amenities. The plaza, I think, will be a real added addition to the village. We've been working with the yacht club, and we think we've come to a resolution with their needs. I've talked to the village president on a number of occasions about that, and so I think we're close to finalizing that, and I think the yacht club will be pleased too. So I'm here really just to answer some of your questions. I don't have a presentation. I have the packet, but my printer only gets about half of what is required. So I see the points that Michael provided, and we are in agreement with all the requests that the ABR had in the past. I can answer any specific questions as it relates to some of the details that are highlighted.
I have one, which was at this ABR when we were all together, and it was number 14, and it related to the toilet rooms that it's going to be built.
I think it's a great addition, so we can modify that canopy.
Well, if you look at what was presented to us, and I'm jumping ahead and talking out of turn.
You're the chairman.
But every once in a while, I guess I can do that. And maybe you haven't noticed it, but if you look on the drawings on page It shows the elevation of what the plan is, and then on the other page, it shows the plan. And we were told that the rooms had to expand out to accommodate the accessibility. Accessibility toilet room wouldn't have to be any more than 7'2" by 5'6", to just accommodate a sink and a toilet. That's all you need. So what I'm saying anyway is what is drawn is a drive-it box slammed up against the brick box with 2 doors right on the beach, and that's it. And that's not going to fly. And you wouldn't like it either if you...
No, I concur. I concur. The design of the project has been done by mostly mechanical, civil engineers.
I said, I've heard of AECOM, but I didn't know what they were, so I looked them up. I said, well, engineers, they know how to do what they're doing, but they don't know how to do what we're doing. And so I took it upon myself, and this board has just got a copy of this today, so I don't know what they think of it. But I'm going to give you a sketch of an idea.
I saw that sketch. I think it works.
Okay.
I think it works.
And it's probably going to cost a little bit more, but maybe not so much. But it's going to be something that maybe we can fit whenever the yacht club decides what they're going to do. And you're part of that now. At least this won't be an eyesore. And it will give a bit of privacy to people that are going to actually go in and use those rooms.
Right.
And that was kind of the idea. So, other than that, I don't know if anybody else has anything to say.
I would just add that we just passed so the project was bid out, and as some of you know, we had really 2 significant bidders. One was at 20 million, one was at 16 million. We had budgeted 10. Nevertheless, we went forward with the project, but then we excluded some of the improvements. So that was a change order, $600,000 change order, which was just passed a couple of months ago. So, and that was a challenge to get approved by some of the trustees.
So it's 3-2 all the time.
Again, yes, sir, yes, sir. And unfortunately, Rhoda Pierce of Highland Park understands what, good-looking buildings really deserve, and so she has a beach that really is, like Lake Forest is, certainly important. So we'll make those changes. It really is important to kind of change, I think, the appearance of that. So I
And
think
it's my understanding that these aren't going to be built, that they're going to finish and then there's going to be a downtime for a while.
Right.
And you're going to come back and build these.
Correct. Our goal is to try to finish the tank, close it up, put up the tank, put the sand down, and then try to back out the plaza before the end of May. And then come back in the fall and complete the bathrooms and some of the other big work. But that's the goal.
Does anybody have any comments? There's a lot of landscaping and stuff that's in here that we haven't even...
I have one clarification I'd like to ask. On your list of things that are to be addressed by the revised plans, it says relocate all exposed conduit and wiring.
That's easy. That's easy and should be done.
But does that mean relocate them where they're not exposed? It just says relocate them.
No,
You
they
can
will
move them
not be
2 feet away
exposed.
and they're...
This is no different than your home. You're just not going to, in the past, there was no thought given to exposed conduit pipes. This is a different animal today.
So in effect, you're going to put them inside the building?
They'll all be modified and hidden, and so they'll be inside the building, correct. And the louvers are going to be, obviously, aluminum louvers. We're going to try to change those to a bronze finish, not the black.
I wasn't worried about the louvers. I was worried about all the exposed conduit.
No, I get that. No, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it looks pretty, like you said, it doesn't look wonderful.
No.
Other than that, I do go by there every once in a while, look down in the hole from above, and they really are progressing well.
You had a perfect season to do it in.
I don't think we've lost but 3 or 4 days because of the weather, that's for sure. It's been a remarkable season, and those 2 gentlemen over there will attest to that. I don't think we had 4 inches of frost in the ground.
And Bob, you came up with a better proposal for the bathrooms?
Yeah.
I like what you came up with. I
Good,
wonder,
thank you.
is that going to be done?
Yeah, no, I've already committed
Okay.
to that, yes.
The
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
question I had was on sheet number L1 in the packet. It describes here as the bathrooms, and it says a cantilever overhang, see engineering drawings. And I'm wondering if,
What sheet?
You said L1.
sheet L1, it's the third in the packet. And I don't see any engineering drawings to see what exactly they're talking about. My question is, Chairman Hunter's sketch reduces the size of the bathrooms.
Well, I don't believe we're going to reduce the size of the bathroom. We will extend that canopy as requested.
Actually, it's the same footprint. The bathrooms are shrunk down because they were way too big. They don't need to be 11 feet deep. And so they're down to whatever I said, 7'5" or something like that, which is plenty big.
ADA accessible.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Like I say, it's almost twice what ADA requires. But the wall comes out the same distance where it was. And the roof comes out the same way. You're not, you're,
Just giving more,
and so, you know, it's.
Right.
Yeah, I think this L1 refers to the previous
That was
design,
the
and
previous
that note wasn't
design, and when
updated,
we
because the
talked about
previous
it,
design
yeah.
was similar to Bob's drawing. It was the front wall recessed with the overhang on it.
Yeah, what it didn't have was a screen wall in front. And
Right.
that's just a freestanding,
Right.
you know.
Right, my point is, could they not just add the screen wall and keep the bathrooms the same size?
If you think about
If they
it.
if they have the cantilever
They
already,
don't, it's 6-inch flexicard. You can go out 2 feet with 6-inch flexicard. And it's not really, you know, gonna affect anything.
right, my point is that if in the plan, they already have a cantilever designed where there is a porch overhang,
There isn't.
Yeah, they took the
took it
cantilever
off.
off in this
They took
version,
it
but they
off.
didn't update the one note you were looking at.
Yeah.
that answers my question.
Yeah.
So it was just a drive-it box right up with a caulk
I saw
joint
that.
and then the brick box.
I saw that.
Anyway, does anybody have any questions about the plaza or anything like that? We can, because that's pretty much what,
Go
I
ahead.
think you're next.
No, you're,
I don't want to go
please,
turn.
take your time.
Is this the point where we do little things, or, I was wondering, I went down there and there, on the lights on the side of the building, it says existing light keep, and then this one is a little different, kind of a nicer looking one.
we're not
There's-
keeping any of those old lights.
Okay, they were like cages built around them,
No
and I
way.
was wondering if the
No,
reasoning.
we're ripping that all off.
Okay, so there's like nicer lights that are weatherproof. It was
yeah.
really windy down there, so
Yeah.
you know what to put there.
Been down there a lot.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, that was one question. And then I'm the interior designer here, so I was looking at the bathrooms.
I live with one.
Okay, so I was wondering on the bathroom walls, are we to that point yet or no?
Well, if you can ask me the question, I won't be able to answer it, but I'll
well,
make
the
something
concrete
up.
block.
All right, well, I was just
Yeah.
wondering, is there,
that was
on the
on the
tile there, I'm guessing
It's just concrete blocks.
oh,
Yeah.
this is concrete blocks.
Yeah.
On the inside.
Okay,
Yeah,
I thought it was
exposed.
tile. All right,
Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But, you know, as far as what was sent to us, and I think if we can wait on this for probably a year, is the color samples of the drive-it.
Yeah, I think we need to, I've been in a lot of appearance boards, and I think we need to bring in all the finishes, the, you know,
Yeah.
the
But until
finishes on the plaza, how we're
Okay.
gonna score it.
All right.
That part's fine.
All right.
But as far as this bathroom stuff
Yeah.
and the drive-it,
Yeah.
you know.
It has to be kid-friendly, you know, so we think it's gonna get a lot of use. How do we protect it?
Okay.
You know, no one's there maintaining it, so, you know,
Yeah.
the park district, our assumption is the park district, that's their baby. You're gonna clean the bathrooms, you're gonna,
With lifeguards if we do.
yeah, whoever's, down there, yeah, they have to pick up the trash, and that's why, we talked about the open trash,
Yeah.
and having the trucks go down there and pick it up.
One thing I'll mention is that in those two toilet rooms, there should be a hose bib, because
Sand is gonna be, yeah,
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 because
yeah.
it's not shown, and you got a floor drain in there, which is great, but
Yeah.
you can't hose it off.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good. I got it.
Anything about the plaza work? Because that's good to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think
Yeah,
that's- yeah,
and I've been looking, I look for aggregate all the time, and so I think you have a nice example of the aggregate in downtown Lake Bluff, but the one that I really prefer is if you ever get a chance to go out to Vernon Hills, there's a Whole Foods, should be in Lake Forest, but a Whole Foods out there in an REI, and that has spectacular sand finish. And I think that would be fantastic to have it down there, which would connect sand, plaza, sand. And I think it's very user-friendly for barefoot people and kids. And so that would be the preferred finish, I think. And just score it with a pattern rather than pour and then have, well, we can get into the details of that, but,
Yes. Let's go back and look at that. I was just there yesterday.
Yeah, look down more.
yeah.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
Do we need to approve this?
I don't know what we need to do.
Well, it
Because-
sounds like you're going to come back with the.
I would like to get an approval predicated on a return visit, and we will give you some specific finishes when it comes to the bathroom and.
Yeah, and like, that's a long time away.
I hope it's sooner than later, but I think we ought to be here in the summertime to kind of walk through that, because the
Yeah.
contractor is going to be pricing it out, and we're going to move forward.
Okay, sure.
I don't want to go back to my board.
You don't?
I don't want to go back to my board and, kind of risk that. Somebody's sick and we lose a project, so, in terms of a quorum, I guess, my votes, so.
Who's that out there?
Well, it's exciting.
Oh,
It really is a great project when you started it from the get-go to excavate, the sheet pile it, excavate. It's really an engineering feat right on the lakefront.
Yeah.
Hard, Lake Bluff Forest clay. It was just, and obviously a great season to be able to build it. So,
it's gonna work out.
yeah, it will work out. So, thank you. Yes, sir.
Do we need to make a?
One question
Okay,
for
what
you.
do I
You
need to
said
do?
that
So.
it was a narrow majority of the board that approved that.
Yes.
Approved this. What did the dissenters think should be done, out of curiosity?
This is recorded, right?
Yeah.
They view, I think there's a different way they look. We have a trustee who's from Zion, another trustee from North Chicago, and they're pretty aligned, and they don't really think that the North Chicago has a retention basin. It's not enclosed. In Highland Park, we actually have a plant there, then everything is enclosed. So I think there's some maybe animosity. I don't know why they have an issue with the project. They'd rather spend their money in other areas. And we do have plenty of funding to be able to tackle this. I mean, we have big, long-term project requirements and replacements, and a lot of that will be going to our plant in Gurnee. But I don't know why. I don't know why they don't look at this project and say, this is really a good thing. They believe in keeping the water clean, but it's a big nut, and
You say North Chicago has a similar holding tank. but
no, it's not. It's an open-air holding tank.
That's what I'm saying. But it serves the same purpose. as
Serves
the-
kind of the same purpose. So their overflow is contained, but they don't have a beach. It's not access to the general public.
It's all Abbott.
Pardon me?
It's all Abbott.
Yeah, it's right there, yeah. So, I wish they were more supportive of the project, and I've tried to be persuasive. This should have been done through a bond. We had the ability to bond this at a 1.9% rate 3 years ago, and they hesitated, and they didn't want to move forward, and then the world turned, and all of a sudden, the bond rates went up, and that was free money, 1.9%, basically. And now we're coming out of pocket, and we're lucky to do that because of our fiscal responsibility. And engineers, and they're all engineers up there, they really design buildings and facilities to last forever. And that's why you see the precast planking on the roof there, What are you doing with 8-inch planking over the bathroom? I mean, who's going on top of that? But that's the way they design everything, so it lasts forever. and don't really care about what it looks like.
Okay, so somebody needs to make a motion, and then we're approving whatever we're approving.
Yeah, I think the discussion was to approve, subject to Bob's revision with final finishes.
That'd be great.
To come back, colors and
Yeah.
finishes to come back later.
Okay.
So moved.
I second. Neil, so moved.
Roll call? Gotta get that.
Yep, sure. Member Wicks,
Yes, I agree.
okay. And then Member Kerouac.
Aye. Yes.
Member Deegan.
Aye.
Member
Aye.
Dahlman. And Member Cottrell.
Aye.
And Chair Hunter.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Mr.
Tom.
Chairman. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
I'm like, skis on that one. Sensitive.
Well, it's not like more like this.
Really good.
But it's
Okay.
I hope what was the inside, not the outside.
Yeah, there's no.
Next is the review of the plan for alterations to the building and parking lot of 919 Sherwood Drive. And you look like you're ready to go.
I'm ready.
Nice to see you. I'm Peter Whitmer from Whitmer & Associates.
Peter,
That's it.
you've
That's
gotten gray.
So Bob, just so everybody knows, one of the things, Bob was my boss for about 8 years, probably 30 years ago. Probably 28 years ago.
Well, it was before I retired, so
Yeah.
we were doing the high school. And then
Yeah, we did high school together.
I
Yeah.
started the high school, got the job, and then I put Peter in charge.
Nice.
And he was the PA for that thing, and he made a lot of good friends in town, including Jim.
Yeah. So one of the first guys I met was Todd Altunian. So we've been friends and doing projects pretty much ever since I left you. So Todd bought a building at 1919 Sherwood and moved his operation in that building. And basically what we're doing is pretty straightforward. It's the office isn't big enough, so we put a mezzanine in and cut some windows in to get some natural light, basically in the offices. They're pretty straightforward. The building's pretty straightforward, squares, and we subdivided them just to sort of match the other windows. We thought about redoing the whole front and changing the 2045s in the front, but really economically and what it is, we just thought we'd keep it pretty straightforward in terms of doing the buildings here. But the interior is interesting now. He's moved his mill shop in it. It's got CNC machines, paint booths, and all the other things that go in the operations of that. So I think everything's right there in the elevations, and if there's any
Yep.
questions, happy to answer it.
So, the windows that you're putting in, are they just going to be, the black frame to match the?
Yeah, they're just aluminum storefront windows,
Okay.
fixed glass, yeah.
And then, they don't open?
No, they're non-operable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, the sill,
The sill will be brick, just like the rest of the other windows that are in there. or the
so
other
could the
sills.
brick come out like the one, like you see the end of the bricks? Like-
Yeah, they'll have a brick sill that'll turn on it and stick out.
It got like
Yeah.
around the bottom there?
Right,
Oh, that's-
the same way, yeah.
The building wants that.
Excuse me?
I think the building wants that.
Okay, I'm sure we asked it and it said
Did you
that.
ask?
Yes, absolutely.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, that's what we were intending to do, just match the existing.
The only thing, are we gonna have any signage on here?
Eventually, yes. We haven't been talking about
Yeah. Okay,
You
so
know, I
there'll
think
be a
we'll
separate.
come back with a
That's
sign.
great. Okay, I just.
You know, it's funny, it's really is our marketing departments and all that is usually pretty word of mouth, I think is usually how we work it, but, yeah, but we'll have some signage.
Okay,
to
and
it.
you'll just
That
come
would be
back for
part of
that?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it looks great. It's, yeah.
Ready?
It looks good to me, yeah.
Neil?
Maybe I missed this, but is it gonna have fire sprinklers?
I was gonna ask that, but I thought I better not.
No, that, fortunately, this building, actually, if you kind of wonder why, on the one side of the elevation, on the east side, it only has 5 windows instead of 6. Actually, our sprinkler riser's right there,
Is
so
that
that
right?
sprinkler
Yeah.
room's there. So it's previously sprinkled and all
Yeah.
that, yeah, so. Yeah, that's tough to, that's a tough one. I feel for you guys.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
It's hard to do that. We had a guy in our old office, remember, went around to school districts, and they argued that point, district by district.
Yeah.
Of what, remember, what was his name? Remember he,
Well, that would have been Mendelson, Andy?
no, the old guy.
Oh,
Who
Ed?
retired. Yeah.
Eric?
Yeah. He went around, they wanted to sprinkle all the schools.
Yeah.
And basically argued that, there's an argument that if you're in a room with a sprinkler off, you're dead. Because you can't
It's already-
survive
yeah.
the temperature when the sprinkler goes off. So
Yeah.
it's a tough decision. I mean, there's really two sides to the thing.
Neil, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, Art?
I said,
No, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, basically, all you're doing from an exterior is punching some windows in.
Correct. And putting a door in too. Or emergency egress out from the second story door that goes out to the west.
That it?
Are you, I'm just curious, fabricating millwork still? Will it be in this building?
Yes.
And do you need any kind of special oversized service doors for that, or is that just fits?
The building already accommodates.
Yeah.
Oh, is that
Yeah,
within a different part of the building?
back, in
Okay.
the south elevation.
Okay, so you're going
big
through
overhead
a
doors.
different,
Yeah.
Correct.
okay, great.
This is just to relocate our offices.
Okay, okay,
I
great.
just had one question. I could probably answer it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. With these glass triangles down below and the open space on the second floor,
Yeah. We thought about,
I thought sure we
why
did.
don't we put them up top? You know, and the one thing is that just the cost and everything, by the time we do it, we don't, we really started saying, hey, should we tear off the whole front of this building, make it look more traditional? And it's a 70s building, it looks, like why, we didn't, when we came up, it was still a warehouse building. So that, we just decided to just kind of keep it simple and.
okay. All right,
not do
just
that.
had to ask the question.
Yeah, no, I mean, you'd say, why would you? I mean, it was interesting that somebody thought that was a good idea to put 45-degree windows in the front of a warehouse, because they thought they'd sell more widgets of whatever they're selling there. But, hey, that's why there are people doing it. They get to make those decisions. Different,
Okay, well then, somebody needs to make a motion.
I move to approve as submitted.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay. Member Cottrell.
Aye.
Member Dahlman.
Aye.
Member Deegan.
Aye.
Member Kerouac.
Aye.
Member Wicks.
Aye.
And Chair Hunter.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
Peter, good to see you.
Yeah,
Are
good
you
to see
still
you.
in the same place?
I moved to
You moved to where?
To the Regents, that's where my office is now.
I can't hear anymore.
It's south of Sophia's.
Oh,
I'm in the commercial, in the Regents Road.
okay, how's Nina doing?
What's that?
How's Nina doing?
Great.
Good, tell her I said hello.
Actually, I'm gonna move over. We're gonna move out of here.
Are you?
Yeah.
Where? Oh, you're gonna move in with Jimmy? Actually,
Good to see you.
okay, see you, Pete.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Next but not last is a division, or the discussion of landscape design for the Block 2.
That's for last. Here we go.
Drew, it seems late, but it's really not.
It's really not. So just so the board knows, the latest paper version is at your place outside of the packet, because we had a
I made a mess.
revised version tonight.
Okay.
And really, the revisions were really just colorized versions of the landscaping. and-
Okay, I'll find that.
Different colored furniture.
He's been hiding all night.
So I'm gonna do this, good. I got it. I'll do it. Sit here, and you can.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Oh, the color ones are much prettier.
I don't know. Some of this stuff.
That's fine. I'll go back.
Screw us up.
You can go if you want, that's fine.
Okay,
guys.
Yeah, right.
It was
We
just.
done in the city?
Interesting discussion, guys.
Yeah.
We have fun,
It was
right?
in the.
I got it, I got it.
We cannot get
Sorry.
Fine.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jody.
Thank you.
She's waiting on me, I
Well, I can
apologize.
start while you go. Thank you so much for having me back. I think I know most of you, but Jody Mariano, I'm Principal Landscape Architect with Tuska Associates, and I think the last time I was here, we were talking about the streetscape for Block 2. And as you know, now it's been constructed, but at the time of construction, the village elected, thank you, Drew, the village elected to only move forward with the infrastructure and hold off on doing things like plantings and site furnishings, just to kind of get the base layer in first and come back at a later date and do plantings and furnishings. So this is the plan from that time. And as you know, all of the things that are in green, all of the plantings were just sodded over with sodded lawn, thinking that we would come back later and we would do a proper landscape plan for those areas and also look at plantings. So at the time, you know, when we were kind of visualizing what this could look like, we were testing some things like seating arrangements and we looked at other planting schemes earlier, but the intent was always to really activate the big plaza space that was created at the southeast corner of Scranton and Center. So do you want to go to the next one, Drew? So these were some sections that you might recall from that time. What was this, 2021? It's going back a ways. But the masonry seat walls, as you know, are in. The festoon string lights are in. We had some existing trees. And what we talked about back then was the benefit of having movable tables and chairs, movable seats. What that does is it allows people to make their own spaces. So when it's somebody who wants to, you know, be alone or with a small group or a larger group, it gives that kind of flexibility. Movable tables and chairs, of course, do come with a certain amount of maintenance. It does mean that maybe they might migrate across the street and somebody will have to go back and put them back. But in our work, and you know, we've spent time talking to other municipalities and universities, and we've done our own work with streetscapes where there's always been this kind of understanding that the benefit outweighs the risk, because a movable table and chair provides much more flexibility in the space. It's a much more attractive environment for folks to use. So that was just like a little bit of background to kind of let you know where we were coming from. That was another view looking from Scranton.
South.
That's correct. Okay, so now flash forward to now. This is just a diagram that shows the spaces that we're focusing on. So today, this year, we're looking at the plantings to replace all of the things that had sodded lawn with native plantings from the plant list that we've been developing with the village over the course of other assignments. So I'll take you through some of those. And then also the furnishing. So to start with the plantings, these are plantings that have been selected because they're straight species native, they're salt, and they're urban tolerant. They do well in streetscapes. So just for our own discussion purposes, we color-coded them because I know that it can get kind of tedious to read all those teeny tiny little labels. But it's a mixture of grasses. Can you go back to the?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I know.
Jumping ahead.
It's okay. You guys had a long night. So I wanted to call your attention to the two grasses at the top left. The prairie dropseed is a grass that'll get about 2 to 3 feet tall. The palm sedge is the one that I wanted to call your attention to. It's the kind of plant that we like to use wherever we have a really harsh environment. So for instance, where we have a concrete sidewalk and a curb up against a street and it forms a corner, the palm sedge is a great plant to put in those areas. Thank you. I didn't know that's what you were doing. So what you'll see is that kind of darkish green color kind of happens at all of those tough spots. It's sort of like a bordering type of a plant, but it provides buffering for the other ones behind so that we don't have tall plants that kind of flop over onto pavements. It can hold its shape really well. It stays green most of the year, but these are all deciduous, so they all will kind of die back. If anybody has been to downtown Wilmette, these are the types of plantings that are also in their downtown. Okay, now you can go. So I won't kind of, spend time talking about every single plant here, but these are the enlargements, so you can kind of see how we're proposing to lay them out. So the ones that are green are those sedges at the corners, and then the dark, then we've got the other colorful plantings sort of in the middle. So the idea is that we have this kind of layer cake arrangement. Low and green and always leafy at the perimeters, and then working our way up to taller and colorful. And then I will also point out, the one on the left, this is the post office building, and so we have 3 benches proposed. Can you hear me? Can I just go walk over there and point to things? So, we're looking
Oh, you know what? Hold on, Jody, hold on. For the television, I do the microphone.
Yeah.
We'll appreciate this. Since he gave me one, we'll use it.
Sure. It's going to be very anticlimactic, so I'm just going to point to the benches.
Well, it's okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is the post office site here. And so we've got 3 planting beds here. This is the crosswalk that gets us to our plaza in front of Innovasi. And so what we're showing here are 3 benches, 1, 2, 3. These 2 are just next to each other, so it looks like one long bench. But this is the only location we're proposing freestanding benches, and we've got some bench options to show. So I'll talk to that when we get to that one. Actually, maybe we should just go to the benches, and then we can go back to the plantings. Is that okay?
Go into the
Can I hop
benches.
around? Okay, can I just talk into this one now?
You may.
All right, so the bench at the top left is the village standard bench. So in the downtown streetscape plan that we worked on, that was the bench that we have included. And so that's like what you see out here in front of Village Hall. So if we use a bench like that in that space in front of the post office, it's not curved, obviously. It would be straight sections, which is fine. That also, the manufacturer of that bench offers a curved version, which looks kind of similar. So those are shown on the bottom, and we can get them with backs and arms. So that's one option. That's a second option. So we can do an all-metal straight, we can do an all-metal curved, or alternatively, the example on the top right is the bench that's used along Sheridan Road at the bike path, where the new kind of trailhead is with the
bike repair station?
The bike repair station, thank you, and the bench and the plantings over there. So that is a metal frame with a locally sourced, thermally treated ash wood topper, and then it's got some, other kind of metal elements, and that's curved. Yes.
I'm going to do the full disclosure about our recent conversation with the working concept plan for the sculpture. And
Yeah.
they're going to be involved in that, so if you may want to reveal that too, just high level.
Yeah, I didn't bring plans,
That's fine,
but
just talking real quick.
absolutely. So as you probably also know, the dance sculpture used to be located in the plaza where we are talking about it in Avasi. And so that sculpture has been in storage, and we have been working in parallel with a relocation plan for that sculpture in a garden-like setting in front of the metro station. And so we had a meeting with a representative from the garden club, just last week?
And the artist?
And the artist, too.
Yeah.
And so we looked at some preliminary concepts for that, and we also had a conversation about benches. And the direction at that meeting was to use the bench at the top right, the one that you see in front of the Sheridan Road with the bike repair station. And the thinking was that just like Sheridan Road, this site at the metro station kind of is outside of the downtown and could warrant a different type of a bench. But as we're now talking about the downtown, I guess the big question is, what do we want to do about benches? And so, I don't know are we trying to get decisions tonight, or are we just kind of? It's a lot.
We're really tired.
I know.
We can try.
It's 2 hours. We can
push
rally
through.
2 hours.
All right, we'll push through.
That's embarrassing, sir.
I know, but that's
I'll go back up.
interesting. That's really.
Joey, I got a question.
Yeah.
I'll go back to the benches, because
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
not sure I understand which is which.
Yeah, sure.
The one that's the wood with the stainless thing on it, what is that?
That's an arm. Are you talking about then the top right
Top
image?
right, yeah.
That's just a bench arm. If we wanted to have arms,
Okay, but that
That's-
one is not curved, or could be curved.
that is correct, yeah. So it is available as a curved or straight bench. In this environment where the post office is a curved bed, and so we would recommend curved.
That's what I would think, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Jody, correct me if I'm wrong, faking holding a microphone, but the curved one, you can introduce the arm on that as well.
Absolutely. We can have arms and backs on those. And we can also do engravings into the wood if we wanted to put the Lake Bluff logo, for instance. I mean, there's ways to personalize them.
Anybody looked at the wood that's up there now on the bike path? Has anybody done their own engraving now?
I'm sorry?
Has anybody done their own engraving on the wood?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Oh, well, so I can talk to that. So the wood that's used is, it's a thermally modified ash, and so
Ash is
it's
hard to begin
hardened
with.
to the point that you really need like special tooling if you wanted to do that sort of thing.
I'll keep that in mind, Mike.
Yeah.
It did dull my knife.
Yeah.
And if something like that were to happen, and so I will say, background is that the bench manufacturers used to always use, and they still do, use hardwoods that come out of rainforests. And those are so hard that you really can't. But at the same time, it's just not environmentally responsible, and we know how important sustainability is here. So yes, if they happen to get carved in or damaged in such a way, it's very easy to sand them down. They're not treated or stained or sealed, they're just natural. So you could sand it lightly and get that out if you needed to.
What about maintenance? You know, do you have to recoat them every 2 years or something?
Right, so no, so the metal components are powder-coated steel. And so the only.
I meant the wood ones.
So yeah, so the wood is unfinished, and there is no maintenance other than if somebody were to come through and carve something into it, for instance, which is very unlikely given how hard the wood is, but if they can, and if there's damage to it, you could sand it down. You could also remove a slat and replace it with another slat. It's just bolted to the underside.
The Botanic Garden has some like that were put in a few years ago that were wood curved and were really nice.
Yeah.
They recently pulled them all out and replaced them with plastic
Oh, did they?
because the wood deteriorated and it looked awful.
Yeah, I don't know about those. I mean, I can share, I know we keep talking about Wilmette. Wilmette also used a very similar bench topper product. It doesn't have a metal base. It's got a precast concrete base with the same wood topper. And they've been very happy with it.
Are we asking questions now?
We can, just as a discussion.
Okay. The location of the benches on that corner, is there, I don't want to say what's the rationale for it, because that sounds very harsh, but is there, like, the purpose of that, because it's really not like a mingling corner, right? It's kind of a transitional, right? You just kind of come and go.
Sure.
The building's not pretty to look at, you know, you're kind of, so, and the way that the benches are curved, you're kind of not sitting, you know, you're kind of curving away from the people. Just curious,
Yeah.
the genesis of the location of those benches.
Sure. I mean, that intersection, you know, Scranton and Center, we've always talked about it as being like the 100% corner. You know, it's kind of where all the bells and whistles are going off. It's a really important intersection. And we know that separately, we're going to be working on Block 1, which also will have more spaces for outdoor seating and things like that. So, you know, siting benches in downtowns can be tough because you don't want to be sitting, you know, on a narrow sidewalk with your face almost pressed up against a facade. At the same time, you really don't want to be like spun around facing parked cars. And so these bulb outs become really useful spaces where it could be conversational, you could have a place to sit by yourself. And granted, the post office maybe not the most attractive building, but it really is a gathering space. And this is kind of the gathering intersection for downtown. So, we think that it's got enough space to be a comfortable seat. I'd be hesitant to just throw out benches haphazardly and them not be a comfortable place to sit.
Sure.
So, yeah, those were kind of the thoughts behind.
Okay.
I've had more interactions at that corner than across the street.
Yeah, I'll
You're
bet.
not cool enough to be across the street. Come on, Bob.
It had to be said.
It had to be said.
Yeah, I'm sure, because people are always coming and going.
Coming and going from the post office or from across
The coffee
town.
shop, absolutely, for sure.
I was just curious.
No, it's a great
No
question.
judgment, just
No, not at all. And I mean,
thought process.
I spend a lot of time thinking about benches.
I'm
and
sure you
so
do.
it's-
That's why I'm asking. like-
Because it's more than just the product itself, but it really is the whole environment and what makes it a comfortable place to sit.
Great.
Tony, if I don't ask this question, I'll forget it. Because I was looking for bike racks,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't see them, especially down by
Bluffingtons.
that way. Where the 40 bikers show up every Saturday morning. And I don't know how we deal with that.
Yeah.
That's Hansa.
Huh?
Hansa has that. They have a huge bike.
No, they do, yeah.
Yeah.
Once they moved.
No, yeah.
Bike
Prairie
racks,
a little bit.
bike racks can be really tough because, at least from what I've observed, when it's the hardcore biker crowd that has like the $10,000 bike, they're not ever going to lock it up. They always want to just lean it up against the storefront so they can watch it from wherever
you're
they
right.
are. But then like the casual biker, like me, I'll always lock up my bike. And my kids, I hope, will continue to lock up their bikes. But I mean, kids also typically don't lock up their bikes. And so I think there's a balance. You're right, we haven't shown any bike racks. And there's certainly space for it if we wanted to eliminate a bench and put a couple bike racks in
That's
there.
not necessarily a good place for it, but I'm just mentioning it overall because I noticed they weren't down there by Bluffington's.
Well, I think, yeah, that's right.
We, and I think this is at the direction of the ABR when this was first put in, we've experimented with different locations and types of bike racks, and we have not found, the magic sauce.
Which
And-
not everybody in
yeah.
town's going to have an electric bike, and those are,
Well, are the bike racks at the library, are they successful or are they just kind of sculptural?
I think it's hit and
No, they're
miss.
not.
I think it's hit and miss.
Yeah, they're just,
Right,
Yeah.
because didn't we end up just leaving the bike rack in front of?
We
House
did,
Cycle?
and we actually put one, that one's there. We had one where that landscape bed is now, it's mulch, and we put in a rack there and left it there, and it gets used sometimes. We've also left one in that crosshatch area, that striped area, that's actually on the pavement. We put in a bike rack system there, which would sometimes get used. Just trying to do different things with portable rack and see who wanted what where.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it's
no,
tough.
it's hard to,
racks on wheels, yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
digress, because I forget things.
No, I forgot, and I'd forgotten about all those conversations. I mean, for what it's worth, we've been working on other streetscapes in the North Shore, and for one community in particular, we spent a lot of time really thinking about best places for bike racks, and at the end of the day, no one's using them.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, it's really tough.
Kids throw their bikes on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we move on?
Let's move on.
Sure, okay, so I guess that's one decision point is what bench type do we want, but we can come back to that. And so the rest of these show enlargements for the plantings. And so here at the plaza space, you can see the double lines, well, I'll just go, can I still talk?
Yeah,
So the double, just to orient everybody, I think you know where you are. Here's Innovasi. Here's the crosswalk going to the park. There's the crosswalk going up to the post office. And so this is the masonry seat wall here and here. From a planting perspective, we are looking at adding planter pots to the piers, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the masonry seat wall. We're also looking at planter pots in clusters. So a cluster here, a cluster here. And then we wanted to explore some different types of seating. So it's not all the same kind, but it's something that kind of gives a range of casual and more kind of, dining type seating. So we looked at Adirondack chairs that could be placed here and here, and also tables and chairs, dining height tables and chairs, or it could be casual height, but round tables with chairs. And the thought was to make use of the seat wall so that somebody could push a table close to the seat wall, you could sit on the seat wall, you could use the table, and, could kind of, get your seating out of that as well. And then also for reference, as you know, we've got the festoon string lighting in here, so that shows our string light canopy. And then the plantings are, as we talked earlier, we've kind of got these, grassy plantings are the greens, and then we've got our clusters of perennial color plantings, and then also some taller grasses are these brown ones. Any questions about just kind of general layout of?
What's the highest that the tallest plant will get to?
The tallest one, that would be these guys, I think it's these guys, yeah, the switchgrass, would get to like 3-4 feet.
Okay.
So what's in the pots?
Annuals. Those would be annuals
So
plantings.
they're going
And
to be
we-
low.
Pardon?
They're going to be low.
Yeah, we've got some options that we can show you different types, but the types of annuals, planter pots that we were looking at were basically two types. The ones that sit on the ground, and then the ones that get placed on top of the pier. Do you want to go to the
I'll go to those
planter
real quick.
pots?
Yep.
Okay, so here are a couple of sketches for planter pots, and we know that there are already some really attractive planter pots that are located along the facades. We wanted to be complementary to that. So these are some section studies that look at the proportions of our typical existing seat wall with the pier. And so we would have a pot that's placed on top of the pier. So there's 3 options, and there's some photographs that describe those. And then some complementary freestanding pots. So just to look at the top one, this is option A. This has sort of this, like, it's actually called the Lake Bluff 32 planter. Wow. Do you guys know this one?
It's our destiny.
I don't know why they have your name, but we had to, and we kind of liked it. So that's this planter, and it's got, kind of these striated lines in them. And so we found a complementary one that's called the Cirque planter that it wouldn't be yellow like that. It would be more white to kind of match the color of this. But those could be the freestanding planters that would be kind of clustered. So that's one option. Another option, B here, is what's called the Washington planter. It's kind of more bulbous. That's that there. And then McDermott and Longwood planters are 2 other planter types. That could be our freestanding ones. And then the third option is kind of a little bit simpler, a little more clean lines. That would be our Mill Valley bowl, the topper, as well as the freestanding ones. And when we do these, there has to have a drainage hole in them, and then you prepare it with gravel at the base, and then the planting soil mix, and then your annuals usually gets rotated 3 times a year or season. I know it's a lot of decisions. Any thoughts about those? Things you don't like or things that you do like?
Go back, sorry.
I like the ones on the ends, I like the idea of those, being on the ends of the seat wall.
The ones on the piers? you
Yeah,
mean?
I just like that in general. I think
Mhm.
that could help that area a lot.
I don't know if we need the planters. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there, with the furniture and all the other plants. Sometimes just a little bit of breath.
Yeah.
For me, that's just my aesthetic, is not wrong.
Sure.
Instead of throwing everything that we can out there, or maybe we see how the furniture works there first and how, movable those become. I can see those planters being, whatever, just some kind of hazard. Not that that's a big consideration. I would say I would hold off on the self-contained planters for now. And I love the pier ones. Those are, I think that gives it a nice purpose to those end caps.
So you like the ones on the piers, but you'd hold off on doing the.
That's me. Yeah, I don't, there's so much going on in that little area. It's,
But that's the area that everyone is, not everyone,
Yeah.
there's concern
Yeah.
that that's too cementy and barren. And I think the things around it will help, but I still think maybe when you're in the middle, I always feel like, speaking of hazards, I always feel like I want something to be in the middle. Because it's that round space, and I just kind of feel like I want like a big, huge planter, bowl, something, or I miss the sculpture there, or something. It feels like it's just this big cement space. And maybe it wouldn't feel that way with the furniture, maybe that would help, and the plantings you would see maybe around it, and that would be enough, but like there's not really trees that really overhang that area, and then it's so cementy. I don't know.
No, you're right. I mean, the idea was to make a bigger space for people to gather and to push all of the plantings around the perimeter.
Right.
And it does feel that way today because we don't have all of the plantings or the furniture.
And maybe with them around and the furniture, it wouldn't feel that way. I don't know, like I'm almost feeling like the opposite
Concentrate.
of you, which is like put more planters in there, you know what I mean? I don't know. I just feel like it feels very sparse and
well, I would, maybe
Desert-like.
maybe there's a thing where we take the idea of those planters and we do something monumental in the middle.
I feel like it
it's
needs
a-
like a middle.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
It's in the way?
Yeah, no,
Can we go back to the plan? I just want to kind of point that, because I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, we do have a lot of, circulation that's running through this
Yeah.
space that we want to make sure we keep in mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't put anything in the middle, but I kind of like I mean, we talked before this meeting, the last meeting, we talked about this, and you weren't here. We had a couple of audience people, and they were talking about, what's down there in the alley, all the evergreens that they put in. Evergreens don't seem right here. But the vertical is missing. And anything that you put in there of a vertical, I wouldn't put anything in there in the middle. It's not a place, you can set it off to one side or the other. But
I
it seems like
agree.
you are missing something that's tall.
What's the purpose of the big space? People are supposed to gather and do what? Like, is there like various things that are supposed to happen there? I mean, it's a huge space.
It is, and so I guess a couple of things. As far as the circulation, we've got people that are doing this movement across the crosswalk to get here. We've got folks that are doing this movement. We've got folks that are doing this movement. So this, in our opinion, needs to stay fairly open in the middle.
Right.
But I think, to Bob's point too, but I think, beefing it up around the perimeters, making use of these walls and making them a functional thing with seating and gathering. As far as what people will do here, from our experience with other similar spaces like this, people will tend to use this as sort of their grab-and-go place. Like, they might grab a coffee or a sandwich from another location, or their own brown bag, and come sit in this space. They'll probably sit here and read a book, or work on their computer, or sit with a friend. It's a place to meet, a place to hang out if your kid maybe is playing at the park and you want to be nearby, but not too close, but enough to see them and they see you. So I do think that you'll probably get a lot of people using the space, but we always have to make sure that we maintain enough circulation. It still has to function as, and not to mention, they have doors right here. So we've got to keep all of those circulation routes clear and open.
Jody, where there's 3 trees there. And
There's a big tree right here,
Honey locust.
that's the honey locust there.
and then that overhangs a little bit, and then
There's a London plane tree on the south.
Drury's tree is to the side. It's just off.
She knows all the names. It feels also very sunny in the summer too, like almost too sunny. Like you're kind of like, you'd love to have some more shade there.
I mean, you could consider umbrellas with the tables if you wanted to. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, it would be very sunny there for sure.
I wish there was one more tree.
Me too.
I think there was a time when we were evaluating a tree to be about here, but I think it was eliminated due to all the other poles and things in the area. But yes, we do have the, oh, you can see the top of the London plane is here. You know, we also have traffic moving through here, so we have
Right.
to keep visibility
Yeah,
open for cars too.
sure.
A lot of competing things.
Is the thought that the restaurants would be able to actually serve people as part of the restaurant out in this area? Or just that people come from the other door or something like that and carry their food out there and use the tables?
Yes, that was the idea, that people, it would be public space, not dedicated or licensed to a specific restaurateur.
But would, from the Innovasi, if somebody wanted to order something from them, would they be able to use it?
Yeah, I mean, somebody from the other door could buy something and walk out and sit there. Somebody from Prairie can buy a coffee or whatever and walk down the street, or from Hansa could come over there. It would be an open space for anybody to utilize.
But not a waiter-served table.
Yeah, they would not be dedicated. Like if you go around hugging the building, there's tables that are specifically, you must have a reservation for and so forth. From the restaurants, the village is permitted, the on sidewalk dining, but they have not authorized that space, the big open space.
Could we just push on the idea of something being in the center? Because when you're, just throwing this out there, but when you're sitting on one side and you're staring at the person across you, is that really comfortable? And so I think part of the problem with this space now is, obviously it is too open. So I'm in favor of the planters, but I'm just wondering and thinking about, I get the circulation aspect of it. The only time it is really problematic is when there's an event. So if there's the Sunday evening concert or the 4th of July, obviously is crazy, but the other times people are milling through there, but it doesn't strike me as a space, at least from my perspective, that I'm like, I'm gonna go sit there because I feel more like I'm on display than I am comfortable in being able to get, just kind of fall to the background. And so that's why I was, kind of just pushing on the notion, if there is something in the middle that provides the more, for lack of a better term, just some security or feel that there are spaces within the space. Because there's no space within the space that then feels comfortable to occupy. And that's just my 2 cents.
Sure, no, I hear you. I think from our perspective, the spaces, the rooms within the room would be, here, here, and here a little bit. So it's like, hugging up against these spaces. And so I guess, to the point, is there I think what I'm hearing is there something that can be done to define the rooms from the inside? And, maybe, I mean, you hate to carve it up too much, but I guess, like if there was, if it was a planter or a planting cut in, here, here, and here, I don't know what that does, or if it's something that's just smack dab in the center. Certainly it can't be a tree because we have the string lights, but it could be something in here that still allows people to circulate around it. There's space to do it. It might mean less for
It could just be the planters configured. I think that was just one scenario. I think I really like what's been done. I'm just sort of thinking about, you're on this perimeter, but yet you have a focal point and there's no focal point. So,
Yeah. The beauty of the movable stuff is that it's movable. And so if we wanted to, try it out in different configurations, that can be done too, for sure.
Can I put a little footnote? When this was designed and all this, we don't know what's around the corner. When's the next pandemic? And so we were trying to create spaces that have functionality and are flexible. So that was one of the reasons I think this was designed this way, is not knowing what's around the corner, but that's why movable furniture and everything, because we just don't know.
Yeah.
And most of them,
Movable furniture.
well, and the idea that this could be for another century, but I know exactly what you're saying.
It's either
A lack of
very public,
intimacy.
there's no
Yeah.
intimate sitting. There's nothing intimate about it, and I'm just thinking about what you just said about, making room within a room. And I don't know if this is a dumb idea or not, but take your planters and be able to wheel them out of the way. Because I could see, 75 people dancing on this thing, which I've never seen happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know why it doesn't, during the Sunday night or,
The disco
any of
ball
those
in the middle.
concerts. Well, then you have to get everything out of the way.
Yeah.
But that's not too hard. But then you sort of are you're trying to do two things that are opposite in the same space.
I wasn't articulating anything that was permanent necessarily, that I just think there needs to be something that is at the focal point that then defines those inner rooms, and you can still circulate around it.
I think it's not, I'm saying you maybe do another reverse arc like the bench, only you do it out of just a couple of these potted things.
Yeah, something.
But I hesitate putting something in the middle, just because I don't like things in the middle. It's like an eyeball.
I tell you what's even interesting too, in the summer, when the sun's high over that area, the shadows cast by the string lights, even that makes an interesting design on the ground. It's different, but I was thinking about the tent idea.
What about your benches that are circular? Could you do like a bench in the middle with some
they're
planters
fixed.
in the center of the bench or something, and people could pull up to that, and at least it would be
Yeah.
movable? I don't know.
I mean,
It's your deal.
Those benches are really heavy, so they wouldn't
Yeah.
really be considered movable.
But they're not a barrier, when I'm talking about, it's a sort of a semi-barrier, so, I don't feel like I'm on the street.
Agreed. And I really like, Bob, what you said about the flexibility in the programming. I mean, we've worked on other spaces where all of the community groups have gotten involved. So it can be, partner with the library to do story time on Tuesdays, or, yoga studio to do Get Fit on, Thursdays, or whatever it is. But having that ability to really program this with different things. And so I like the idea of putting things in the middle that are temporary, that can be moved back out of the way to allow for that sort of thing to happen.
Like large Adirondack chairs. Maybe a grand piano.
Yeah. All I know is that me and Ed are going to be pulling planters to the middle every other night.
Yeah, well,
One observation
I will say they're heavy.
Yeah.
They're precast concrete. Go on.
yeah.
One thing I would point out, though, is, this is still a pathway
Yeah.
from east to west, and aren't you plopping something right down in the path?
It's a
Whether
pretty
that's a
wide
good
path.
idea or not, I don't
Right,
know.
so this, I agree, here's this path, this needs to stay open, we need to
But then
keep this open. So once you draw the desire lines, there's a sweet spot in there that you can probably put something, but we don't want to get in the way of routes.
Let me throw something else in there.
Yeah, that's what I,
Neil, your question about the outdoor dining. I mean, I think if this group said, maybe they should experiment with the idea of taking the restaurateurs off against the building and bring them out, like make that pathway open and say, take up the middle and leave the hallway open. I don't know, I throw that out
They did
there.
that to begin with. Didn't they? I think they were kind of up against the curb.
yeah, now they're both, aren't they?
Huh?
Now they're both.
Now they're both,
Yeah.
which I don't mind.
I mean, this is public right of way.
Yeah.
And
The
so
way-
it seems like, I don't know, if that were provided to one restaurateur, might that be?
It's hard, that's part of the rub, right? It's hard to benefit, the
Then we're giving stuff away for free it's a private enterprise. It's,
right now, the way the cement walk is scored, there's like a clear center lane, and we tell them, stay, that now there's a clear line, and that works very well.
Elmhurst does
Your
it.
idea,
Paint
Mike.
every other brick white, so
Yeah.
you know, like, where to pick your tables.
Would it be asking too much to explore something that you think would be appropriate for the center to kind of break it up a little bit? Or is? or
I
is
mean,
that-
happy to, but I think what I'm hearing is that whatever it might be that's put in the center should be something that is movable, like a planter pod. So it can be put there, but then moved back out if there was an event or a desire for more seating. Does that sound? Does that sound right?
Yeah, it sounds
Is
right.
the right interpretation?
Yeah.
I could see doing a permanent option
Me too.
and a movable option, because the permanent thing could be really cool,
It could
whatever
be
that
really
is.
pretty, yeah.
I'm not sure what it is.
What, the dancing ladies?
The dancing ladies,
I like ladies.
You were talking about a fire pit last time, right?
yeah, they have one in
Yeah,
Geneva.
if we had a fire pit out there, I could go cook marshmallows.
Get back to the fire pit.
Koi pond.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
You know, maybe we do this incrementally.
yeah.
And start off with what you got and see if we need to add something to it.
I think you would find that once you start putting in furniture, the space won't feel so big and vast and empty. I think, there is not much other human scale out there today.
Well, one question for you is the furniture that you're proposing in here, the individual chairs, I presume they're relatively sturdy?
Yeah.
But they're movable, and how do you prevent them from being stolen?
Right, so we've got some images so that I can kind of speak to those, but as far as your question about them getting stolen, that is always the risk when doing something that's movable. And in the conversations that we had with other municipalities or universities around the country, we found that maybe 10% gets lost a year, and that they felt like it was worth the cost to replenish that because it provided the space that they wanted. And so I don't know if anyone's been to Evanston, but we designed Mountain Square, and the same kind of thing. Movable tables and chairs. Some of them got used as skateboard ramps, some of them got stolen, some of them wound up in people's backyards, but still the city replenished it because they felt like it was worth it, because you'll go out there and you'll find, they do have programs every day of the week. And they also have, folks from Northwestern will come and put like 10 tables together and have a meeting. Or it'll be, somebody just by themselves who wants to read a book under the shade of a tree. And having that variety, having the ability to use that space in so many different ways is so much more valuable than something that's fixed or tethered and restrained that way. So, yeah, it's a possibility that.
I like that idea. It sounds like, from what you're saying, like maybe it makes sense just to buy 10% extra attic stock and have it stored somewhere.
Yeah.
If someone does steal one, you got it.
Think of them as laundry, grocery carts.
Right.
Grocery carts are all over the place, but most of them are still at the store.
Yeah. Well, and these are replaceable whereas.
They're not $200 a pop.
There was another one I saw in Highland Park that was very interesting, where somebody put in like a 12-foot by 12-foot chessboard with big chess pieces. And then somebody came along and stole one of the kings and one of the bishops. Well, they had the.
Only
Yeah, electromagnets.
Somebody made a statement with that.
But in this case, where you got extra chairs, that you could have an attic stock. That's
Yeah,
great.
for sure, you could. And so these are just we just, wanted to share some examples of the types of tables and chairs that could be considered. So the last one, those chairs could be stacked. These are Adirondack chairs. They're metal, powder-coated metal. And, they come in some vibrant colors or more kind of subdued colors. And we did a couple of studies of potential color schemes that we could consider for the space.
Hold on, sorry. Going the wrong way.
This is another example. And this one, maybe just to stop real quick, you can see these also come in a variety of heights. So this is what you would call kind of lounge height, so lower, or, the dining table height, or kind of bar top. In our opinion, for this space, I think we would not want the bar top because of the height of everything else, but I think we could consider the lounge or the dining table height, and then there's the chairs kind of meet those heights. So they come in all of these colors.
I like the chairs that have the arms. I think that's nice for people who might be a little older, who need a little help getting up.
Sure.
And I like the two heights of tables might make it more interesting in that space.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, keep in mind, we don't have space for a ton of tables out there. I think we're only showing maybe 6, but I think absolutely mixing it up makes it more interesting.
Are all of those chairs stackable?
So the top one is, that last one, I have to check, I can't, oh yes, this one is stackable as well. And usually they're stackable like up to like 4, and then after that, then you have to create your new stack, just because it gets too heavy.
And we would store these somewhere in the winter, is that correct?
We could, if we needed to. I mean, I think one of the things, the village, when I first arrived here, 16 years ago, you had all these regulations about outdoor dining. Everything's gonna be taken in at a certain date.
Right.
Which ultimately,
Yeah.
people want to be outside all the time if they
Right.
can, so
Yeah.
it's like, okay.
This winter, definitely.
Yeah.
We used to have to plow snow.
Yeah.
Had to make way for.
Gosh, what's that?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So keep going, I think, okay, so we just did a couple of just quick studies just to look at potential color schemes, and there's obviously so much, but thinking about the branding and the green and the blue colors that are kind of, for Lake Bluff, we could do something that had, green Adirondack chairs, green chairs, and then blue tables, for instance. And if you keep going, there's more. This one is a little bit more true to your green and blue. I mean, we actually found that these green and blues are actually really close to this. So it could be green and blue for the tables and chairs, but then maybe the bronze metallic color for the Adirondacks, because you also have brown as part of your branding. And then silver is a nice kind of complementary table color to go with those chairs as an option. This one just plays on the blues, so you can have navy blue Adirondacks, then the light bright blue for the chairs, and then silver for your tables. I think there's maybe just 1 or 2 left. This one doesn't show so well, but there are 2 different colors of green, and that navy blue almost looks purple on the screen, but you could mix in a couple of different greens for your tables and chairs, and then your navy blue for your Adirondack. And then I think this one was really just more, boy, that black looks brown on here, but it's really just more kind of simple and subdued. So a silver metallic color for the Adirondacks and for the chairs, and then a black table as an option. I think this was probably our last one. Nope, I lied.
So the idea is we're going to make some decisions on this so we can get this stuff in place by the spring. Is that it?
What's the turnaround on, I mean, it was like 6 weeks.
For the
Yeah, for the street furniture.
Yeah, usually in the range of 8 to 10 weeks, depending on who you order from.
And I would say the village board is very keen on getting something in the space, like activating the space with furniture. I will tell you, the plantings are at a different price point that may be phased. We discovered when we were just trying to do that simple little bike repair station, it was astronomical. We ended up buying most of putting in the ground ourselves and doing it and kind of parceling it out just to try to make it happen within a very simple budget of $35,000.
Well, and the other thing that I should mention about these plantings is that, unlike the area over on Sheridan Road, which is like good soil, good earth, here we don't have that because this was recently built, so we're going to peel away the sod and kind of scrape away a little bit of the soil, and you're going to probably find rocks and Coke cans in there. So we need to provide a good, like, 24-inch depth planting soil mix, and that's going to cost some money as well.
Can I ask you, that's a lot of plant material, and basically I think all you have to do is cut it down in the fall, right? Or some of it you don't even cut down.
You don't really even, I mean, you can.
Because somebody's going to have to maintain it somehow.
Yeah, and actually, yes, for sure. And I guess I will mention too, can you go back to the overall plan? Any
Yep.
of those plans? If we wanted to, we don't have to have as many perennial plantings as we show. We could cut out, we could do like, 40% lawn and 60% plantings or vice versa. Like we could create shapes in there that still has lawn and islands of the plantings if that was a desire.
I think from staff's perspective, we only thought it'd be like the bookends, like right there in front of Innovasi, on the other end by Bluffington's, and that, I mean, going down, that never occurred, oh, I didn't think that would be planted.
Oh, these?
All that, yeah,
Oh, yeah, and you don't have to, I mean.
yeah.
You know, I hate to bring this up, but there's 9 dogs for every human being in this town.
I heard there was a whole conversation about dogs before.
And, I mean, at the very least, you're gonna have to have some bag stations.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the town has done pretty well. They're around down by the park now, and it's,
No, that's very smart. You should,
Yeah.
for sure.
but it's something that I can remember seeing people when the garden, the dancers were there and the garden was around it, taking their little dog and putting them up in there.
I see people do that in Evanston too. They
Yeah.
like pick it up, stick it in a planter that's
Yeah.
like this high off the
Yeah, say, okay, go.
Yeah, so like, for instance, if we wanted to cut some costs, we could just focus our perennials plantings around the back sides of the wall, and then everything else could just remain lawn. And that would be one way to, you know, help with the cost, for sure.
What do you think? You think it's overkill or just right?
I don't think it's overkill. These are not big spaces. And we know how important native plantings are. We have met in the past with the Sustainability and Environment Committee, and so we know that that's an important thing to them. It does cut down on your maintenance costs because you're not having to mow anything.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but, you know, the other thing we could consider is just treating this and not treating the sections to the south, but,
I feel like people are pretty focused on that one area. I mean, at least what I hear around town, basically, is that people.
This plaza space.
Yeah, so I feel, and I think it's good to phase things, but sometimes if we phase them too slow, I think people, it doesn't have the.
It's gotta be a pow.
Yeah, it kind of dribbles in, and then people are like, oh, that looks bad, blah, blah, you know, and partially because it's not done,
yeah,
right? And
well-
so, you know what I mean?
We're also gonna be up against, to me, I think it's like, you know, you look at block 1, what are we gonna do for block 1?
Yeah.
It's not gonna be this.
Right.
So,
Well, elements of this have
Well-
been considered, but yeah, it'll be a little bit different. But like the seat walls and the overhead string lights were considered for the space in front of,
And that, there's, you can, if you walk over there today or tomorrow when you walk outside, you'll see a bunch of spray paint on the ground. We're doing the phase 2 design work now for that.
okay, good. Yeah, I just don't want, you know how you focus so much on one and then
Yeah.
everything else just
Yeah.
dies on the vine and.
So the village board has authorized the phase 2 for that, block 1, with the goal of submitting for some grant money this fall. And if they said if they don't get it, then they're gonna have to make a choice to do it or not do it.
Yeah.
but yeah, but I mean, I think to your point, this, some form of this, whatever we land on for
Yeah.
this, would be repeated
Oh,
up
okay.
kitty
Yeah.
corner.
Yeah.
It should hang together.
So we need to quit bouncing around and make some decisions, is what we're saying here.
Can I make a decision? Or at least
What about the fire?
a comment? No. I'm not a huge fan. If I'm just walking through there, I don't know if I'd choose to sit in an Adirondack chair. It just feels like you're kind of at a weird level at a crosswalk situation. You know, you're kind of low. Adirondack chairs to me are you're looking out at some kind of scape, right? A vista. And this feels, you know, without our obelisk in the middle that we're all pushing for, it feels like the Adirondack chairs aren't quite located correctly to me. Like,
Well, I like them.
we can put them on the Bob corner. I'm just saying for me, they feel almost.
I've never seen a metal one, though.
Would you like them better on the village green?
For sure. I
Where
mean, I
the
think they feel
gazebo
better,
is,
yeah.
like in grass,
That's just to me. When I think of Adirondack chairs, you know, I'm thinking
Yeah, yeah,
on a
yeah.
lawn, you know, on grass,
Looking
not
at
on
a
a
lake.
sidewalk.
Yeah.
It just feels the wrong location for what that piece of furniture truly is. That's all. It just goes against what it wants to be located in.
So what would you put there instead?
It could be, maybe there's a bench situation, a different kind of seating than just a general
You could
chair
fit
or
one of those
something.
benches over there for sure.
I'm just saying, that's just me.
So this scales more of your speed, Matt, you're talking like this.
Yeah, I think that's great, like little intimate things and not like contemplative Adirondack chairs on a busy corner in our town.
I agree with you that I'm not an Adirondack chair lover, and I get a kick that I drive from
Well, everybody's got them in the
Park
yard
every
now.
day, and I see them all over Lake Bluff. I don't see them anywhere else.
Yeah. We love our Adirondacks.
For some reason, we like them.
Very Adirondack.
We're the only resort community.
Yeah, we are, it is a
That's
great
what it
resort.
is,
community.
yeah.
But I could see 40 of them at the park, for sure. You know, I think that's the natural location for them. And it just feels like on concrete, people are walking by and you're in it, it just feels wrong.
When you see them in Lake Bluff, you see them mostly in people's front yards with nobody sitting in them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're sculptural,
It's a decoration.
for sure.
Yeah.
I would vote for the metal armchairs.
Okay.
And as far as the colors, I like the idea of the, what was it, the green and blue from the.
Aren't they all have
In our
orange
last meeting, we
options?
said
This
that
is
we
the only
should have the
non-arm chair.
colors
This one has
kind of
arms.
subdued instead of trying to compete with all the plant
So-
material, which is, the bright orange.
The everyday
green,
chair.
all that.
They're two
as I
different
say, they-
manufacturers. Go back
No,
down
that,
to the
that
non-
falls into that. All of these things I think that she showed.
This guy?
Yeah, okay, so stop here. So we looked at a couple different manufacturers. So this manufacturer is called Forms and Surfaces, and they're the ones that offer the green and blue that's really close to your logo. However, these are chairs that have no arms. I think that they offer other chairs with arms, and I hear you. I think it makes sense to have arms, so we can certainly look into
Or a mix.
their
Or a mix.
offerings.
I think a
Some
mix.
Yeah, always a mix.
I think a mix is fine, but like there have to be some with arms.
Gotcha.
Like these Chipman and
Because
then
the Chipman does not have your blue and green.
Okay.
They have different greens and not,
what was the everyday? Where'd that go? I lost that. The everyday chair.
their chair. Oh,
I kind of feel like if we're gonna do the blue and green, that
Art,
maybe
did you
there's a
make
more
this one?
muted one. Maybe we don't need to be so bright.
if that's the case, that opens
Like
us
that
up
one?
to other
So
manufacturers.
there's the everyday.
The everyday chair, I really like that. So
I think
Yeah.
people are really gonna connect it with the logo so much. I don't.
they don't have your blue, they have greens. The blues are much darker
Muted palette other than the yellow.
in the flambe red.
Flambe.
Nothing wrong with good fun day.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, we have actual samples of the actual metal that we can provide to the next time we talk. But
And are those 3 different price points then, the way they show that? Or we're not sure.
the colors, I think there's like standard color. The top is the Vivid series, the middle is the Neutral series, and the
Okay.
bottom is Architectural series. I don't think that it's a substantial difference.
I'm
in
just curious.
cost.
A lot of
Yeah.
times they're, it's
Yeah.
this and this.
I had to read it. Is this the chair type that people like the best, though? The one that stacks and has arms?
And is that's just all metal, right? So the
Correct.
slats are,
That's right.
Seems like it would hold up in weather.
Mm-hmm.
Rain would go through and not
Are they
puddle.
just powder coated, or are they aluminum, or what are they?
They're powder-coated steel.
yeah. And I like that they're not 4 legs, that
Yeah, I
there's a
like that
rail.
too.
I think it's a
Yeah.
lot more stable
I
for,
agree.
Yeah,
the just being outdoors.
I agree. The sled is nice.
Are these anywhere on the street in the North Shore?
Not that I know of, but let me ask the manufacturer. She's local, and so we can find out. Okay, so we like the everyday chair, and we're not really married to the Lake Bluff logo colors, is what I'm hearing, but maybe something that is more muted green and muted blue is what I'm hearing.
I'm thinking only with the colors, that obviously if it's a real dark color, it's gonna show dirt like crazy.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
So something that's relatively neutral,
Mm-hmm, sure.
a color that looks like dirt, so when they get dirty, you can't tell. Nothing wrong
But
with-
not black, because then there's white dirt?
Yeah.
I mean, these also, can be power washed, and they'll hold up to that if you needed to. How about the table? Do you like, I think I heard before, if you go back up to the everyday one, that table, that's the
white
lounge.
coffee table?
Yeah, well, you can see, yeah, the one on the left is the lounge, the low one, and the one on the right is sort of the dining height.
Cafe table?
Yeah, I heard earlier that there was a desire to have a mix, and we do have 6 shown.
And do those come in other colors besides?
They come in the same colors that are
Soon to be dark,
shown here.
yeah.
I like mixing it, I feel like it
Yeah.
just gives it some more interest, but do you guys
I
have
see.
thoughts on color?
I like mixing it too.
Should we each just say 2 colors? We're gonna be here all night.
Well, if the chairs are a blue and a green.
I don't think we landed on that.
Oh, you don't think we did? I heard, that's what I heard. What did
that
you
subtle?
land on?
I was the only one.
Oh, we need somebody else to monitor this conversation.
Thank you, Member Cottrell, for voicing your opinion.
Well, if we like that chair, does it come in a blue and a green?
So
Not
the
a
blue and the green that it comes in are the ones that are shown here, this specific model. So
Okay, so.
at the top, you can kind of see there's like a
Top
dark
left?
green
And a
and like
lighter.
an olivey green.
Yep.
I like that lower left sage green.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is called lol, leaf green, this is
No.
called moss. And
What's the one, I'm so sorry, straight down, bottom row?
Bottom left corner?
Yeah, what's that guy? Sage?
I think it is sage.
Like a
It's
sage?
hard to read, but
Is that what it is in the upper left-hand side, Jody? Upper left photo?
This
With the
one
orange,
here?
yeah, what is that?
I,
Hard to tell.
it looks like sage, but I couldn't really.
That looks kind of nice.
So we're not talking about the blue-green from the sign?
For me, I'm not.
Okay, because that seems like
It's a-
matching pantsuits.
Yeah, it's a little too on the spot. I just think we want, Innovasi is very sophisticated. They have really, you almost, even though you almost have to take into account, it's all black, it's very lovely furniture.
Yeah.
I think if we do like bright red and orange, it just feels not as elevated as
Well, it's
our
not. And
community
we
is.
talked last time, maybe you weren't here.
I wasn't here.
About not doing that kind of thing. We got all the color for the front.
Yeah,
And, let's.
I'm a
let's
big
not-
fan of like the muted green and maybe something else and calling it a day.
Second thing. Done.
No, wait, say it again. Was there a
Like the sage.
What about the sage and the rust?
Yeah, I love the rust, the
What
sage
about
and the
the
rust.
sage and the rust and then the table?
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sage and rust for the chairs?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not
Yeah.
deciding.
Yep.
I'm just.
No, I just want to make sure I'm
So
following.
it's the fourth color on that second row at
Sage,
the bottom.
rust, And then what would be a good table, you guys? What, the cream? Is that cream or is it white?
So we're calling it rust, but we don't know what it is.
Come on, this?
There you go, yeah. I don't know what that is. So I think those are two,
Or sage.
like it's like red brick out there,
Here,
right?
I can
Like
tell you that, I've got a printout. That red is called Terra.
Terra, yeah,
Okay, so the one on the bottom left is called sage,
yeah.
and then the Terra, and then what was the other one you liked?
You want to know, is the table, is it like the metallic or is it gloss white?
Yeah, I think,
I would caution against
Oh, yeah.
gloss white.
yeah.
But I think that if you wanted to do like, that is called silver metallic. The one next to it is called mercury metallic.
This is fog.
That's fog.
Oh,
Yeah,
that might be all right.
Those are better. I wouldn't do white.
No.
They look like my mom's kitchen table, which you don't want
Can we
on.
see the actual, did you say you had the actual samples?
Yeah, not with me, but I've got them in the office that we can bring.
Because I have samples too, which one?
Oh, this is landscape forms, so you probably have them too. It's the same.
It's
Yeah,
like, wait, there might be a decision. I'll be right back.
Yeah,
yeah, no, that's great. Wait, so I just want to make sure, so I heard earlier,
What does everybody else think?
I'm not gonna.
I'm not sure where we are. Everybody keeps,
Bob's across the street at the post office, he doesn't care. He's on his bench.
On the other side.
Yeah, we might vote you in, Bob.
We were looking at, okay, so we were looking at the chairs in the sage,
Yeah,
in that bottom row there.
got it,
Yep.
see it?
and then the Terra,
And then the Terra, so mixing those two.
Yeah.
And then,
it's kind of similar to.
Yeah, it's
which
pretty
looks
close to that.
pretty.
Yeah.
And then maybe that fog or whatever that is for the tables, could that show less dirt?
Less than white, yeah. And, any flat surface is going to have
Yeah.
chips and spills on it, it's going to have to be cleaned, but it's powder coated, it can handle. Oh, that's awesome. We do have.
Landscape forms.
Yeah. All right, so we're looking for fog, sage, and Terra. I don't know if you have all of them.
Boom.
I can,
Here's fog.
Oh, fog's nice.
oh yeah, that's fog?
That's foggy. That
That's-
one showed dirt.
Yeah, that's truly not represented
Looks like the
correctly.
splitting. Yeah.
That's a nice table.
Hold that up.
Oh,
So, I'm so sorry, we'll pass it around. I was just trying to get a whole,
well, here's obsidian.
Here's sage.
Oh,
And that's
here's-
nice.
Oh, here's sage is nice.
oh, that's pretty.
Here's
yeah.
blue ash.
Tablecloth. Is the table legs and everything the same color?
What about those two?
Yes.
There's another green, this is moss.
Oh,
Here's bronze metallic,
oh, brown. No, it's too
silver metallic, mercury metallic,
Okay.
steel metallic.
Sorry, here, we'll pass them down and then come back. I'm so,
Oh, this one.
Is that Tara?
This one is Tara.
yeah, that's our turn, which is,
So what about,
yeah. I
this
still like
one's not
the,
bad.
This is onyx.
This would be good for the Adirondacks.
I'm really glad you have it.
Yeah.
What were these?
nice.
I think that's the.
We can do
Adirondack.
20,
Oh,
that's nice, a little hunter green.
200 or is it?
No, I like hunter green.
Seem to be DOA.
What do you do, get half and half?
more space for.
I think you
They're
get
gonna
half and
be all
half.
over the place,
Nothing.
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
More space for space.
We got here.
Don't get too confusing.
I'm okay with anything you guys decide.
Enough
This
to
is
from
sage.
Yeah.
No.
We're not allowing other decisions to be made. Sue's like controlling the sample set.
Sue is not sure.
I'm not sharing after this point.
Are you looking?
I did, I looked.
You're not in love with any of these?
No. I don't mind red, but I don't think that's.
Yeah, do we like that palette, or? So chairs,
Put it
table.
down to member control. What do you think?
There's a navy.
All right, here's navy.
Yeah.
Oh, kind of looks black.
What are we filling down there?
You guys make the call.
No, that's not nice.
Oh, no.
Yeah, all right, say, what do you think? No, really, for real. What do you, is there anything?
one instead of
Where's that other,
Yeah, well, what is
what
the
else
table?
is there?
So one's a table.
Another one I kind of.
Yeah, the fog?
There's in one table.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Which one does he not like for the
The
table?
fog.
Okay,
I'm
no
kind of
fog.
with you, and I wondered, what about something like this for the table?
Yeah, that's nice.
That's nice.
Well, you could have the table, the cafe table.
No, it's nice.
So you got the cafe table, certain color, and the lower table, different color. No? All tables the same.
That's
We
too
were
much.
like, no.
That's
You were doing so good.
Pass those down.
Okay,
Pass those down.
so table, chairs.
What?
I think that's a nice fun, but not
All right,
fun.
remember Cottrell is
I
hoarding
see.
hoarding
Does that say?
samples.
Oh, yeah, see?
Look
Does?
what he's doing. He's pulling them out of his sleeves.
tabletop?
Oh, let's see.
That looks like sage.
That's
or,
pretty dark.
Slate.
Yeah,
Oh, that's possible.
and that's
Dark
nice.
one is-
Here, catch up to that one.
What do you think?
That could be the table too, this one coming down.
Oh, I like this.
I like that
Yeah,
too.
the hunter, that's
I
mine.
like hunter.
Yeah, that's mine.
All right.
So if I was doing hunter, I'd do more like a tan.
This is the,
The dark one is the table, or
my
this
car.
one?
There is no
Dark
table.
as a
We've only
table.
got flesh.
I'm not so sure I like the dark color for the table.
All right, we're gonna make this happen. We are gonna pick it.
I'm counting on it.
So close.
We're so close. All right,
What was
what do we have?
Send that down.
Yeah, I don't.
All right, you need
it's
to weigh
this.
in here.
Okay,
All right, so what are our options here?
Moss.
moss.
Let's do the chairs first. Pick the chairs first.
What if we had one colored chair? Make it easy.
No, that's boring. No, we need two.
You're right, I'm getting tired of sitting.
What if we
What do you guys
do,
got down there?
what if we do, does that come
Gotta go to the restroom.
armless?
I don't know.
Because it looks like that one is armless, that's a bad,
Picture.
you know, that green
Oh,
one?
yeah, look at where the lady is sitting.
Yeah.
I think that it is armless.
So what if we do one
It's
armless?
an arm.
Yeah.
The one on top, the lady in the yellow chair.
Yeah.
So what if we?
Is that
do-
armless?
These are armless here.
Yeah. So I'm thinking armless one color, armed another
armless,
Yeah,
color,
and then table a
and then a
third
table
color.
of third color.
Yeah,
I like that.
Okay.
all right,
So we're halfway to a
we're
decision.
almost there.
Do you still like Tara and Sage for the,
Well, we were looking at, we were
Two.
starting to look at,
this is Sage?
yeah.
Sage.
No?
Keep going.
What do you think? Come,
At the end.
gather around.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to have a.
Needs to be
When
a,
everyone in the village is complaining,
Oh, yeah.
we all need to be
I'm not
as
saying.
one.
yeah, we're all throwing
And everyone's
Sue.
like, who picked those colors?
Yeah.
We hate those chairs.
Silhouettes.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Is that Dust?
Yeah, that's stuff.
Why does, those look
These
nice.
seem to go well
Yeah, because
together.
I think that's too bright.
I like what
Yeah.
you said about Innovasi. I hadn't really thought about their
What have you got?
interior.
Chairs.
Which is table.
So that
Chairs,
seemed like an armchair. Who knows? But I'm just going,
a chair.
I pretend like it makes sense and hopefully people buy into it.
must be an architect.
Yeah.
So armchair?
Yeah, table. So, and this might be nice because those posts are
That's
so
nice.
dark. Maybe
Yeah.
that'll help with that.
So armless? Armed tables.
I like these two,
Yeah.
I think that's too dark.
You do? All right, well, how about that? No. Is there a lighter
So
one?
that, when
Hold
we
on.
had the fog, he didn't,
What,
Art
someone
didn't like the
just-
fog.
Kind of light.
Yeah.
Wait, what's this?
Fog.
This is metallic. Do we hate a metallic table?
Way too, no.
Yeah.
I feel like the
That's too
metallic
shiny.
is really shiny.
Yeah,
It
that
is,
does
it is really shiny.
I don't like that.
Here's the deal, this is what you had, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, that's gonna show less
Yeah.
than the other ones that you had.
That's
Yeah.
obsidian.
Yeah.
So the tabletop, the light gray?
As if the names of them really matter.
That's a little lighter, maybe.
Not really.
Slightly darker.
The same.
If you do the squint test, they're the same value. That's a squint,
Just
and it'll
one
be the
just
same value.
warmer?
That's how you do it. If you squint it, Joe, it becomes.
Unless we do the okay, is this crazy talk? We could do the tables this, and the
Obsidian
chairs
dust.
this
Can
and
you tell the
that.
difference?
Should we switch around the components?
No, I think.
No, I agree, yeah.
I agree. I feel like the table.
This
wants
is a
to be
little
bigger.
lighter than that, I think.
No, you guys are crazy.
Well, don't hold it up against the light.
Well, no, because then you see it's not lighter. Look at,
In the sunlight, they might.
that's lighter. That's the same.
All right, so this, would this show less?
As far as what?
Yeah, but these are so I think that's
This is
not a good one.
wimpy, but would it show less?
No, they'll show scuff
More?
marks on
What
people.
about
Oh,
that?
yeah,
What
I
about
know.
that? Is that lighter?
No, that's like,
You hate that.
I do think.
let's
I
just
mean,
go with the dusk.
These all seem like the dusk. These seem like they're of the same.
Yeah,
family.
that's a,
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Start with that, done.
You like it?
All right.
Okay, so wait, just to make sure. Okay, so
Wait, does anyone violently oppose?
No. I'm
Member
in favor
Cottrell?
of what Matt just put together.
I think
Done.
that's pretty
I think
good.
it's good.
it's a nice.
So what are the names on the
so
back?
just to confirm, Tara is the
You know,
one with arms.
years ago, I was working with the women's auxiliary.
Wait, say it again. What did we decide?
Volunteers.
Tara is the one with bench
This reminds me of
arms.
that.
Yeah. It's like-
No, I thought we
No,
said
I don't
Tara
know.
armless.
Yeah.
Tara is armless. So sorry. Not that it
Thank you.
truly matters.
It does. Armless. Sage is with arms.
samples
Yeah.
coming.
And then dusk
Nice.
is both table heights.
What's the table look like?
Fire the big ball.
No, what's the table color?
Yeah.
Oh, the color?
What's the color of the table?
Yeah.
color.
Look at
Okay.
Very
Like a nice
Dark, but that's all right.
Is it too dark?
Look at this
The
brown.
problem is there's not a good in between.
We didn't look at the
It won't
brown,
be too
that's too
dark when
brown.
it's sitting on that concrete.
Yeah, it'll
in-
look good.
In that open air, it will not be too dark.
Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna photograph.
And then just make sure Sue Wick selected.
She did not.
Sue Wick.
She wasn't even at this meeting.
I usually do both.
They'll be nice.
I was not even here.
Neil, could you
You never,
use those,
none of you saw me here.
That was really good progress.
I know, right? Look at us go.
Mike,
Okay, so then the next
leave this
decision.
here.
Are we ordering planters?
Yeah, okay.
I think if you don't do anything else, when you order the chairs and tables, you should at least have the planters.
Yeah, I
for
like
the
the
ends.
planters on
I don't know
that.
how much longer this.
At the very
Yeah.
least,
Yeah.
don't you think?
And in lieu of the arrows,
Right,
do we do just more of the?
We could.
You will have these as your reference, visual reference for now.
Is that they have across the way, so there's not so few of them.
What's the table?
Can we pull up, the table is
Dusk.
dusk.
Oh, of course it
You will
is.
sit there at dusk and
Jody,
say-
what else do you need?
We're gonna go to the,
Pots.
Planters.
The urns.
On the arms.
The ones
on the
on, just the
pedestal.
ones that are on top, there, go back.
I like to how could you not?
More is more, right? So less is more, I'm more is more, so,
What goes with
but
the buildings?
that's what I would vote for.
Okay, so
I would
so
not
just
have
as a
anything.
reminder, the one on top is the Lake Bluff planter,
Uh-huh.
the one in the middle is the Washington planter,
Yeah.
the one on the bottom is the Mill Valley Bowl.
Matt's gonna go to the bottom one all day.
I will, but just because you said that?
And there's one other thing I would point out, I mean, just for what it's worth, so the wall has a limestone coping.
Yep.
These top ones have a base, so you have the coping and then a base and then the bowl.
I like
So
that.
same thing here,
Yep.
coping, base, bowl. This one has no base, it's just the coping, and then the bowl sits on it. So
So
I would
coping
say
looks like
that
a base.
for the traditionalists in town, we
Yeah.
might maybe consider omitting that.
Yeah.
Is it my imagination, or are those things too big for the pedestal that they sit on? They seem like they're out of scale.
So the pedestal is, boy, I can't remember, this is drawn to scale, but
Oh, it's not?
No, it
this
is.
is drawn
Oh,
to scale.
okay.
So, you know, I want to say that the width of this is something like 18 inches, I can't remember exactly, but, you know, we think that they fit. So, you know, you generally want it to be a little bit wider.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is a 32-inch wide out to out, this one is also 32-inch wide. You don't want it to be like dinky little thing. You
You're
want it
making
to
a
have
statement.
some statement, yeah.
I like them both, the top and the bottom. I like the bottom one because it sort of stands up farther, but I like the top one because it seems like maybe, I don't know, it's kind of pretty. I don't know, what do you think? What do you architects think, building-wise around
I'm
town?
top one.
Yeah,
Top?
I like the top one too.
That's where
I
I'm,
think
All right,
that's more like Bluff.
Yeah,
For like
Like
Bluff,
the
and
top
goes
one.
all the
Base
Lake Bluff.
yeah,
Right,
it's truly,
But
right,
I
top.
wouldn't go with the Cirque series.
no.
I
That
agree.
doesn't, I think the McDermott would be,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would agree with you.
I would
on that,
agree.
Art. Yeah.
I think that those would go well together, the
Yeah.
Lake Bluff with the McDermott.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Did I hear that we want to consider just the pier tops and hold off on the other ones, or?
Someone said that, but I would disagree with that.
Yeah?
I said that. I'm not doing well tonight at all.
Yeah, I think we should do them. I think we should do them all.
More is more.
I do have a,
I rarely disagree with Matt, so this is going on record.
it's all good. Do we have, where's our trash cans? Like if they're gonna be eating here, where are we locating trash cans convenient to that location?
Well, right now, they're right across the street in front of the post office and a little further south down by the other door's entrance.
Yeah, but, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, our experience is, if they're not there, it's okay too. Because we've taken them out of the picture because people, like a tenant's complained or something.
Yeah.
And the apps, it's worked.
Okay.
I
So
would
that's
add to
fair.
that if we
I wouldn't
wanted,
want to put them here, I just, if people are like
yeah,
drinking a coffee,
Right.
and if there's not a convenient place somewhere in their path back, they're not gonna stay there.
It's
So-
in their, they can turn, look across the street and see them.
Yeah, so that's fair.
I agree, and I think whenever you place them, you do want them to be away from the seats and on the way out.
There's no doubt, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so,
fair.
you know, so
Magnets.
we could
Yeah.
probably
All that
think
stuff.
about it here, but.
No, I'm not
They're
for
using
them.
them for
I'm
fire pits.
Just, that's
Yeah,
a,
for the.
those are all good points.
Trash
Yeah.
cans are
Great.
great.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
people love
If
So
we
are
do
we
that,
done?
just
Are we
use
ordering
3
tall
Adirondacks
planters
there. I
also, or
think
no?
them. It makes them a
What would
three-season
we put in
Jody.
use.
of the
They don't use them when it's cold.
So I was
what are
thinking,
they, green wood?
yeah.
Let's get back organized
Oh,
again.
sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
So,
We
Yeah,
were,
we
we
have
were
a-
talking about planter pots.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
like-
but let's make a decision one at a time instead of all over the place.
Okay.
So, have we just settled on planter pots?
I heard the Lake Bluff pier top planter was preferred, is that
Yep.
correct?
That it?
yep.
Okay.
All right, so
Mark
we got
down.
that. And then I also heard that for the freestanding ones, the McDermott planters, folks liked. Now, those only come in one size.
Oh, no.
So, so we were mixing it with a taller one, so you can have some variation.
Which looks cool, but is there a different taller one? That one didn't look-
There, we could look for other ones.
I felt like that one didn't match, or it doesn't have to match exactly,
Went the
but it
wrong way.
seemed kind of unmatchy. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't,
Taking it off
I think
the
it'd be
wall and
annoying
putting it
if they're
on
all
the floor.
matchy.
I
It
know,
feels like I went
but
to
is that
Home
one
Goods.
too unmatchy?
Well, I don't
Page
remember
one
it.
to go for this. I'm going the wrong way. No, I'm going the
There
wrong
you
way.
go. So we had paired that in the middle. We
Yep.
paired that McDermott planter in the middle
Yeah.
with the Longwood planter to the right. And so
You think that's, okay?
it's the middle one is 20 inches tall and the one on the right is 36 inches. And I mean, I think, you know, when you think about like the stripiness of it, so the Lake Bluff planter has the stripes on it, the McDermott planter has the stripes. It's kind of nice to have something that
Yeah,
All right.
doesn't have stripes.
What are these things made out of?
They're precast concrete, but they will
Oh, they're
call
heavy.
it like cast stone, but it's just
Yeah.
basically precast
So they're not
concrete.
gonna be easy to move around.
They're going to be heavy, especially when they're filled with
Heavy and
soil.
expensive.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they'll look.
But the lead time on these can't be that, I mean, those aren't, do they have those, or are those lead time, are they made to order?
I have to check on those specific ones. I can't tell you off the top of my head, so we can find that out.
Okay.
Okay, so we like the McDermott and the Longwood
Sure.
together? Okay.
Was in your setup, did you have, was it 3 planters?
Yeah, so each cluster was 3, so
30
it
or
would be
36?
like
2,
2 smalls and
No,
1
36.
large in the middle, for instance.
Yeah.
Too big. Is it too big?
No,
Oh.
just curious.
I don't know.
And do we have to designate a quantity, or are you doing that because you're?
We showed a quantity, we can go back and I can point it out if it's helpful.
Wait, can you go back to the pots one more time, the planters?
Sure.
Is that one, the 2 that we picked, the 2, I can't remember.
Longwood and
their names.
McDermott?
Yeah. Is the difference between those 2 great, or is that fine?
So
that one's really high, that 36 inch, that's a counter height.
The Longwood is 36-inch high and 34-inch diameter. The McDermott is 20-inch high and 26-inch diameter. And the little diagram at the left maybe helps to kind of see kind of the relative sizes of things.
That Longwood weighs 700 pounds on its own.
It seems like
It could be,
that
well, I was
36.
gonna say it could tip over, but not at 700
That's
pounds.
I don't know, it kind of seems like
That's
that
crazy.
there's a.
That is not going
bigger-
anywhere.
Like the other 2 look more like
700
related,
pounds.
and that Longwood makes the other one look kind of.
We could stop riots with
You know
that
what I
one.
mean? I feel like, is the long one too big?
For that space?
Yeah, or for that little one that it goes with, and for the space.
What's the seat wall is
18 inches tall
Yeah.
at the seat height.
the column,
And the column is like another,
so it is taller than the column.
it is taller than the column.
How do we, is that good?
I think if it's far enough away from the column, I don't think that's a
Yeah.
problem.
Do you want to go to the plan and I could point out where we
certainly.
had shown them?
That'd say 700
Or maybe
pounds.
that
700
helps-
pounds.
Does, yeah.
Or maybe that helps
700
create that, maybe that does help create the little separations
almost a
between
car.
people if it's a little
That need
bigger,
a
I don't know.
footing?
Okay, so we
I
have
know, right?
Concrete starts cracking.
a freestanding one here, a freestanding one here, a cluster, and a cluster. And so, you generally put the tall stuff in the back and the short stuff in front. And
Right.
so I think, we could consider, tall, 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 short, 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 short.
At 700 pounds,
That's a
you're not gonna
ton.
move it around.
Yeah.
But they are sort of along the edges, I guess, so maybe
Yeah.
it's fine. But I'm just wondering, is that one too big, or is it fine?
I mean, I think when you think about like its placement, this is
I
the pier
think-
top. So you're
Yeah.
gonna have the pier top with the planter on that. So
Yeah.
that's the tallest thing here.
Okay.
The next thing down is gonna be one of these longwoods, and then the next thing down. So it's gonna be like a tiered.
Yeah,
And what that does is, it kind of provides guidance for folks that are walking this way, but it also provides some of that protection
Yep.
for seating here. So it's a little bit of that room. And then since we're talking, as far as what goes in place of the Adirondacks, I don't think anything goes here, because we already have the wall. But
okay.
here, we could consider a curved bench,
Yeah.
if we like those.
I like the bench there.
I like the
That'd be
bench
good.
there. Yeah, I like it better there.
It's good to have a different kind of seating.
And maybe, have a tall planter on each side of that. In other words, it's sort of an entry going there.
Of the bench?
Here,
And I think that's it.
If this is a bench, put the tall planter here.
sure,
No.
we can see how that.
Yeah, makes
No?
sense. Gateway.
Okay.
Not sure. Just teasing her.
I mean, honestly, I do
That's
think
like
that
a
the
gateway
6-foot
then.
bench is gonna take
Yeah.
up, because this is a pretty large tree, so you can't get too close to it, but I think the 6-foot bench is probably gonna take up a lot of this space, but we could test it and see if there's space. I'd have to look.
Could you do that as a curved bench?
That's what we were thinking.
Yeah, because you can't put anything straight in.
Metal or wood? Sorry.
That's the next decision.
do one like you mentioned on each side.
I think we're done with the pods.
I think, I guess they're fine.
kinda
I just,
protects people from
was worried they were
walking
big,
out.
but
Yeah,
maybe
makes a
they're
gateway.
fine. I
That's
don't
what
know.
I'm thinking, yeah.
Longwood and 700-pound animal.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Truly.
Nobody's walking off with that.
Yeah.
Nobody I want to meet anyway.
I'm not helping unload that, because I'm not around in the winter.
Does everyone think those pots are okay size, the bigger ones?
The big ones are big, but I think
They'll be okay.
It's a big space.
Okay.
It's cool.
Don't forget,
It
it's
is
a big space.
It is a huge space.
Yeah, I
All
do
right.
like the big.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Next decision point is benches.
The bench.
You want to go to the
Okay.
benches?
Yeah.
Slide, please. All right, so the bench discussion was
I don't even know which way to go anymore.
either, you keep going up.
I'll go up.
Either straight or curved, and metal or wood.
I would do the curved metal.
Me too.
And the reason is that looks, it's very comparable,
To downtown.
complementary to the chairs.
I agree.
And it probably is a little more comfortable, like the ones that, are we doing the ones with the back or the one with just a seat?
See if we can get them up here.
I
That one
think
would
that
probably have
if
a
we
back.
do the metal, I would think we would do arms and backs.
Yeah, like the one there. I think that's nice.
I just don't have a really good photo of it, but the one on the bottom left
Yeah.
shows the curved with the back. It doesn't show the arms, but arms are available.
Yeah. And is it available in any colors? Can we powder coat it to what we want, or is it black?
So it is available in colors. It's a different manufacturer than the movable tables and chairs, so they aren't the same colors. This is a more traditional manufacturer, and so we can let you know what those are. I mean, it's mostly like blacks and browns and blues and bronzes.
I mean, even if it's black, or
Yeah.
it'll go with the table a little bit.
So that is that's an embedded mount, is that what you're referring to? But it's also available, well, we'd have to find out about that. If we had it in an embedded mount, we would probably place it so that it's embedded in the landscape.
Yeah.
So you're not, and it's good for maintenance, because you're not having to deal with
Yeah.
plowing or
Okay.
sweeping around, but yeah, it's kind of unusual. You can see that was poured on a new concrete pad.
I can see
I
it,
would have
yeah.
just put it right in the landscape bed, behind it,
Yeah.
but whatever.
Well, this picture is showing an outside curve. Do they make an inside curve?
I'm sure.
That's what we were.
That's a good question. The shape of our planting bed is an outside curve, but,
It could be either one in that location.
Inside curve.
It's an inside.
So on one side it's inside, one side it's outside.
Oh, so you're talking about two benches to replace the Adirondacks? I thought it was
No,
just
I
one.
mean,
oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about the post office site. You're
Oh, yeah.
talking about
yeah.
Innovasi side.
the Innovasi site. Yeah, we have to find that out. That's a great question. We'll have to ask.
And I'm assuming that regardless, whatever kind of bench we put on the Innovasi side would
Should
match.
match.
On the Hansa side.
Absolutely. On the post office side. The post office and the Innovasi side should match.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So one's an innie and one's an outie.
Okay, so it sounds like we like the option C, the curved backed bench with armrests. And we will look into whether we can also get a
Color options.
concave. Okay,
What else?
I think that's,
What do you want to see again?
I don't want to see anything.
you just want to sit out there in the new furniture?
So, we're ordering the furniture and the planters.
We're going to make a recommendation to the board.
To
This is-
order.
Yeah.
What about the
And then
plants?
what about the actual plantings around?
So I think I'm hearing is on the corner as far as we can go financially. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
On the outside? Because the last time we met is we want inside and outside.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it may get trimmed down. It may just be the end point.
So meaning, can you go back to like the overall?
Oh,
Like,
top of
yeah.
the top of the order.
Top of, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to make sure, we want to focus Are perennials plantings here,
Yes?
not here?
Yes.
Did you want to do here?
I think if we can, yes, and then even the other bookend by Bluffington's, the far end by Oak. Those 2 beds, yes.
Main ones?
And across the street to matchy, yes.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Yeah.
and none, and that just remains lawn.
Yes.
Okay, I think that makes sense.
That'd be nice.
Bob, is that you and Mike?
Yeah.
Mike, pick his mic up.
I was doing that earlier.
The reason I mentioned.
Okay,
Right up there, that's where those trash cans are that I mentioned.
So the question is, what do you want to see at the next meeting,
I'm a part owner of.
if anything?
Florida.
Could we see, if it's
On
not
the
too
beach
much work,
and
just anything that you
back up
think
where we
could
have a
work in the
tiki bar,
center
we have a
as a
fire
focal
pit.
point? And if you come back and say we tried everything
I
and
don't
you
care
can't
whether
find
it's winter
anything,
or
then
summer.
then that's fine. But maybe you'll have like a
You go
brainstorm.
out there at
I
5, 6
mean, I'm happy
o'clock,
to, let
7
me just
o'clock
check
at
my
night.
calendar.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Half a
think,
dozen
from what I'm
people sitting
hearing, I
around
think whatever would go in there should be movable. Isn't that?
We could also, not to be annoying, not do anything now.
And do it later.
Let this thing exist a little bit and see.
See if we feel like we need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
Get this
just hard
stuff
to-
going, because it's going to take some time to get it, right?
Yeah, there's lead times for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm hesitant to put I feel like we may regret putting something permanent in the center.
Yeah.
Because it just takes away all the
And
flexibility.
it depends on how far we space out those tables, if
Yeah.
someone's like, wants to move a little bit more.
Sure.
All right, well, maybe we just get the furniture and the
I know, I'm
plantings
gonna
and then we
move that,
decide.
truly, 3 of them.
I don't know.
I think in the center, we should have a statue of the mayor.
There you go.
Sure.
Fortunately, Lake Bluff has a president. so-
Yeah. So I vote nothing now, just let everything else happen and give it a test.
What else is everything?
No, all the chairs and all that, like do everything else and leave the middle
I
be.
think we should, I never think we should put anything in the middle.
Okay, so you're, yes.
Maybe a big north, south, east, west.
That'd be fine.
Well,
that's clever.
you do have a really cool plaque program throughout town, like the bronze plaques, if you wanted to do a
Brad.
circular one.
I feel like it needs something. I'm just saying. I guess I'm going to see.
Cotton candy vendor?
Yeah, a waiting pool.
I mean, it could be, and there's also public art, which is, always tough to decide on, but I mean,
That would be
Yeah.
cool.
there could be
Awesome.
interesting.
I'm just saying the waiting pool from Walmart.
It's like such a round space.
I'm gonna bring one out there. There's no code, right? That I can't
So,
do that.
okay, so what we can do, I'll work with Jody to make the changes to the plan like we talked about, and we'll have a visual aid for that, that I will share back to you all and say, here's what I'm taking to the board.
Great.
And they'll probably have comments, but if there's anything that's noteworthy, I'll bring it back to you. Otherwise, I will this is the recommendation from the ABR, to this is what they want, and try to make it happen.
Cool.
You've got a budget for this, right?
Some,
Some.
not the big number that I saw today, but this is a little smaller,
Yeah.
some of it, so we'll see.
So
The
if we
board,
had-
the board wants to do, they want to get underneath, that corner, they want to get the corner right, so.
Yeah.
Last time we talked about, the general consensus was the lights were too bright, even
Yeah.
though we got the lowest ones, that we were gonna unscrew every other one. So
Take
And
down.
when I looked, they were all off because of the Christmas lights. So I don't know if we've tried that yet.
We have not tried that.
Unscrewing every other one.
light, yeah.
Yeah, if you do that, though, you have to, would you leave the hoods?
Yeah, it just seems.
I don't think anybody can see them in the night, it doesn't matter, does it? If it's partial, if you just unscrewed, you think it,
Motivation of that?
Yeah, just unscrew.
Can't
see what it looks like.
couldn't you get
too bright?
an electrician to put a
Very
dimmer
bright.
on?
Is it?
can't.
I
Are
think,
there dimmer
Really?
lights? Are there less bright lights?
Those have to be
We
like
explored the
7 watts around
dimmers.
here,
The
so-
thing about the dimmers, it just fries the system.
Are there actual light bulbs that are less bright, or is that the least
that is
bright?
it.
That's the least one.
So
Out
we,
there in the cold and
it was,
went through the
Okay.
light
we
bulbs.
looked at all of the options and we tried to select a color temperature that was complementary or matched the streetlights, because everything is kind of in the same and on the same controller. But, yeah, I mean,
What if we took down some of the strands and didn't have quite so many? that controversial?
Well, it's just, it's a big undertaking, you know, there's stainless steel cabling that is connecting all the D brackets, and then there's the cord, the string lights that are mounted to those things.
If I remember, the lights themselves were the least expensive piece to all that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe we can look at just getting a different string of lights and just using all the same infrastructure that has, you know, spacings different.
I'm trying to remember what spacing we had. Was
that's
it
a good idea.
24 inch?
I think it is 24. I think it's the widest.
No, they offer a 36. Well, you can do whatever you want. I mean, all they do
Bring that
is,
back to you also.
they come out there and they measure it and they cut it and they add another one.
It is a little blinding us.
Bulb
It is
it down.
really bright, I will say.
No opportunity to bulb it down.
Somebody
Small,
suggested,
you know,
and maybe I
low
saw it
wattage bulb.
in a notice from somebody, putting the
They
lights
make
in
it sound like a
trees,
system that's,
Yeah.
it's the way it is.
Yeah.
like.
Unless, as they just pointed out, it's
Yeah,
not
3
that
trees
expensive,
there.
you just replace the whole thing.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's
but
little.
in the summertime, that's the trees and leaves.
Cover with leaves, that doesn't.
That does,
doesn't
I mean,
work.
that's a great winter thing,
Now,
but
what those
I
bulbs
can't see
are,
that
are
in the
they
summertime.
LEDs or are they,
I think, does Lake Forest keep their white lights on?
I hope to God they're LEDs.
because a lot of LEDs you can't put
It is
in
really
there.
bright, it really is.
Well,
Are there
They
gonna be
never take
those
it
kind
down.
of
That might be when they
festoons?
blow
They cut them off
anywhere
every
else?
year.
what
Or
it
is it
is.
just there?
Let me say that again.
Are there more of those
It's on the
festoon
same
things
system
going
as
anywhere
the
else, or is it just there?
In front of the Hansa
Can't
Okay.
put a
corner was,
dimmer in.
the idea was that
In
this
other words,
corner would be
yeah,
reinforced
you're
by
gonna dim
those,
everything.
those things.
The
And so,
street.
yeah, if we're gonna
That's
talk
what
about
I-
different spacing, we wanna match.
It's
The original
So we're gonna
concept
change them,
plan-
we should figure that out before we do it again.
Sue, the original concept plan had lights here, here,
Yeah,
here, and here.
Okay.
and almost going all the way across.
So
At one
That's
point.
And then this here.
Yeah.
And we can talk to the train station too, right?
Yeah.
Actually, even at this corner, we had more lights at one point, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
they shaved it
Yeah.
back. So,
Fired up, man. The more the better.
Festooned up.
Light it up.
We wanna see it from space. I think you can see those lights from space.
You can't.
Light it up.
There's hats on them. They have hats.
Oh, right, that's right.
that's right, they
I
have
like it,
hoods.
I like it, I like it.
I don't mind them, I just think they are really bright.
Yeah,
I like your idea, maybe you can find ones that are spaced farther apart.
I'll talk to somebody
that's a
about
good
it.
idea.
Oh, yeah, they can be spaced, but the thing is, if they get spaced further apart, that means you can't reuse what's there, which isn't the end of the world. It just means taking it down.
Can't use them
and then-
there. We may find somewhere else.
Sure, but yeah, so it would just be new wires, which is easy to do.
yeah, if they
Absolutely.
take them off the. Wherever they take them off.
Wow, that was the long.
I move to adjourn or no?
Second,
Fun, though.
done.
You gotta-